Oh, I'd love to be an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I'd truly like to be. 'Cause if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be in love with me.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I never want to be. 'Cause if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, there would soon be nothing left of me.
The fuck off the neighbor's roof! Get down, Billy Earl! Man, he always doing dumb shit. Billy Earl, get off the fucking roof! I'm gonna get closer so y'all can finally see how the fuck he be doing this shit. Billy Earl! Man, what the fuck is on that roof to where he keep going up there?
What the fuck is on that roof that he keep going?
Billy Earl!
You know, I love that clip so much. I'm pretty sure God invented black people just so he could have that clip. I'm pretty sure that was the impetus. Like, that was part of God's plan. It's like very forward thinking, that man.
Yeah, they make the best comedians. Like,
They really do. Like incidental humor, right? Like you couldn't plan that shit. Like there's no planning that. Hello, boys.
You know, there is something to that because growing up very rurally out in the middle of nowhere in the South in Kentucky, man, like all of my black friends were just the undeliberately funniest people on the planet. Like we had a buddy that my brother and I did like everything with him, especially their senior year of high school. And he's 6'10", 6'11", like 300 pounds.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I'm like 6'5". My brother's about 6'7", and he's 6'10", 6'11". So like the three of us go out, and it's just like giants walking around everywhere. But
What the fuck are they putting the water up there?
He was the most unintentionally hilarious motherfucker ever. And when you're like literally a giant, like it's just makes it even more hilarious.
It's like
They probably got some.
So it's
They probably got some nuclear plants.
Yeah, so when you mix fluoride with like Roundup, all of a sudden you get like these freaking mutants walking around the earth. So you want Nephilim? That's how you get Nephilim. Apparently, that's it. Like this is end of days.
It's like an episode of Attack on Titan or something. Like the giants walking.
There are a lot of missile silos out there. There could be some errant radiation.
You never know. Yeah, you never know.
This is my personal theory. So in Australia, there's where I am at right now. G'day. One of the stats out here is like you get a lot of people with skin cancer, and they're all talking about like the ozone layer that's still depleted down here, and blah blah blah. But also the thing they don't talk about is like Australia was like the #1 site for nuclear testing, both on the continent in the middle of the freaking desert, and then like off continent, the French were using the islands that are like just like a few miles off the coast to like
shoot him in the water. But,
yeah, and just like detonating underwater, and just like, what does this do? I don't know. Find out. And then you're like, well, also, you reckon that might have some effect? Like, do you think maybe that's why everyone who's like 70 years old is all getting these weird cancers like all of a sudden? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe white people aren't supposed to live in Australia too.
This is possible.
Well, seriously, like it's like like a lot of people do get like skin cancer, like the rates are higher, and people are like, well, how are people having like vitamin D deficiencies and getting skin cancer? And it's like, well, we're living where we didn't evolve to live, maybe white people aren't supposed to live in the tip of Florida, maybe it's just not supposed to be the case. Maybe that's too much sun.
I think it's a combination of stuff, right? Because I mean, if white people were just dropping off dead throughout it's been colonized for what, like 200 years and with that. If when they got here, if all of a sudden like white people were dying in like in 20 years of getting here, they would have been. I'm pretty sure the British would have been like maybe maybe we just don't go here, right? It's the same thing with India. It's like don't go out when it's hot. Like just don't go out in the middle of the afternoon, you dipshit. Like there's ways of doing it. But it's like, when you start combining things like nuclear waste or nuclear programs and where the fuck they're doing to our food, like you
I'm
start
convinced
adding
it's
up all these
sunscreen,
toxins
too.
and eventually you just have an overload. Yeah.
Like, wear your sunscreen, you're gonna get skin cancer.
Like I did notice that there's
Twitter.
been like, oh, go ahead.
Trey, do you have to use a lot of sunscreen? You kind of have that complexion.
Yeah, I got the ghost complexion here, and like if I lather in it, like it doesn't work sometimes, so it doesn't really, I get the SPF 70 or whatever, and it still doesn't cut it. So, because we went to the beach and I was like, oh man, this sucks. But I didn't get burned this time. I was actually surprised I didn't get burned, even though like one time we went out for like 2 hours and I didn't put any sunscreen on. But
just wear a rash guard.
My wife is incredibly fair complected, and she had me put sunscreen on her back one time when we were at a theme park or something, and I missed like just this little strip of her back, and that one little like 1/8 of an inch by 4-inch long strip that I didn't quite get enough sunscreen on. It was like blood red, burned all the shit. It's like, and I don't wear sunscreen. Period. Like I've got Indian in me, so I don't burn.
Well, technically I do too, but
dark brown.
Like I just got the Irish, more of the like Irish or Scottish. I don't know which it is really.
You got the albino Indian.
Yeah.
The ones who were sent out from the ones who were sent out from the tribe, like you were infested with the spirit of Wendigo. Out.
I guess that's why I did so good at cross country. Have the legs of the Indian.
So I have a friend. Have y'all heard of this phenomenon? I have a friend who
having friends. Yes, I've heard of this. I've heard this rumor.
Their last name is Guerrero. So he was raised his entire life thinking that they were Mexican or of Mexican ancestry, and did a 23andMe thing. And what they come to find out was that they were actually Apache out west at the time when like all the cowboys were going through like killing Apaches, and Apaches were going through like scalping everybody, and to avoid being murdered off by all of the like rangers and cowboys, his family like traveled south and like basically banded up with the Mexicans and changed their last name and to blend in. And when he did the 23andMe and like he asked his granddad about it, and his granddad like remembered being a child when they actually did all that stuff.
They learned Spanish real damn fast. ¿Qué? Por favor.
No.
I am a taco.
Clyde showed up making a bunch of noise. He's outside avoiding his wife so she doesn't beat him. Looks like he brought the tool that she would use.
I just wanted to see. I just really wanted to see what trash he brought on to replace me.
Hey man, these are like.
I knew it wasn't going to be good.
Well, I can't believe you talk about Dag that way. I can't believe you talk about Dag that way.
Ouch, buddy. It's all right. I've been going pretty hard on Clyde today.
You're just intimidated by a man with a real mustache, not one of those little feathery things you got going on your top lip.
I had to cut it today.
Look, you just need to make it
mascara most of that on, anyways.
I mean, it's the only thing I can grow.
There's like feathers and shit hanging off it.
Are you fighting with turkeys with a? What are you doing out there?
Gobble gobble.
He's just waving stuff around, pretending to work.
Oh shit.
Oh, sorry guys, my wife's burning the house down.
That wasn't me. I made my kid like a chicken tracker, right? And the door on the back. I don't know. I used the wand to paint it, and it eventually fell apart. So now I got to put a piece of plywood on the back. It's one of the many tasks. Yeah, working on. Except that they shit all over the screws, and now it's all rusted shut. So I gotta fight that. And I got a mama sitting on eggs. Y'all quiet as hell. I love it.
We're just listening to your turkeys talk to you, and you talk about whatever racket making thing it is that you're doing over there.
I'm trying to find out if Dag burned his house down or his wife did.
She's learning how to can. And, yeah,
What is
just got
she
a
setting
little-
on
just got a
fire
little
learning
warm.
how to can? Hang on, wait. My mom
Oh
cans
man, you
a
should
lot.
see out the
And I
elderberry
don't
syrup.
recall her ever setting the house on fire.
Canning bacon grease.
We had a surprise baby chick last night. I went to lock up all the birds and heard some peeping and found one sitting in one of the nest boxes with no mom around, so brought it in. And then at the Rural King today, we got a couple guinea chicks to keep them company. So that was our peeping.
Guineas.
See, this is my point. So it's funny. Like, I have this ongoing. There's this ongoing comments thing in one of my videos where this guy's like, he's like, "Oh, you wasted 4 minutes. And it was boring. I stopped watching." Right? Because in his commentary, he's like, "You didn't put enough flashy stuff. You didn't put like an intro or anything to kind of hold interest." And I'm like, I don't think this is for you, man. Maybe it's just not your kind of stuff. Because obviously, this kind of where we're involved in is like, you don't get most people like killing turkeys and raising chickens in the background on most professional podcasts. But here we are. Like this is the
We
new meta,
literally
my
had an
friends.
entire episode where Dag is murdering chickens in the background throughout the entire show, while also talking and having like carrying on conversation. Of course, then Clyde came in the middle of the episode and got distracted as soon as he realized that Dag was killing chickens in the background and had to like stop and watch.
It was the rubber apron. I think it was really the rubber apron that got me. I just been like not. I had to,
Dexter ass looking motherfucker.
Hell, I guess if that's wasn't my thoughts.
More like Dexter's mom.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about later.
We were
See, she's
this was the first time we
She's
were
mad at
raising
me.
turkeys. We had a dude show up to do tractor work and like give us a quote. And he shows up and I come out just like covered in blood, and I'm like, "Hey man, how's it going?" Like, sorry. And he's like, whatever. Like, didn't even like question it. I was like, this was nice about living in the country. You can just come out covered in blood and nobody even like thinks anything of it.
Are you telling me if I want to be like a serial killer, I just have to like, call myself off as a professional, I don't know, chicken slaughterer, and it'll just be
It's just
okay?
easier to
I
get
always
away
have that
out here.
excuse.
I had
You
one
say,
episode.
you just say, see, I was handling my business, okay? Yes, I was handling my business. Everything's okay here.
I had one episode of my show where we had the windows open. It was like a nice day. It was cool out. And I tried like 4 times to record. And every time I tried to record, the goats would just go fucking nuts and just nonstop. And finally, I was just like, fuck it. Whatever background noise we get, that's what we get. I'm recording an episode with goats and chickens and dogs and kids, and I don't give a shit. And it actually turned out not terrible. Like, it was kind of a nice little ambient noise in the background. Like, it wasn't entirely distracting. It was kind of pleasant. Unlike Dag's kid or unlike Clyde's kids, whenever they like are screaming in the background, then it's a little bit off-putting. But
Why do you hate children?
I don't hate children.
It just it makes
he
up for all
does.
the love you give them late at night.
I'm just not a big fan of yours. Like
You're overcompensating.
my daughter literally sat right here, perfectly well behaved, and
That's because she's too old for you. She just doesn't fit your MO.
I didn't think any of y'all bastards were going to show up that morning. So I went into her room and said, "Hey, put a bra on. You're going to be on the show with me." And she was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "You heard me. Bring your ass." And so she did. And then everybody showed up. And so I didn't have to have her after all. We're just going to take him out for a second. I'm not sure what's going on. I think his wife caught him. Participating in the stream and decided to murder him out there.
Yeah, we better not get that on a video.
That's the hazard of living out in the middle of nowhere is your wife can just dump you in a ditch somewhere and nobody will know for like months and months and months.
Yeah,
and then she can just say it was an accident. She didn't even know where you were.
I've been on very good behavior since moving out here because we're basically in what the Australians call whoop whoop, which is like out in the middle of nowhere, in rural areas, which is a big change for me being a city kid. And I'm just realizing, I'm like, oh yeah, no, my wife could just dump my ass in the bush, like, you know, pretty easy. Like, what happened to the Canadian? I don't know. He went for a walkabout and got lost, and freaking snakes got him. You know, it's you start to realize,
Or the
like,
spiders.
or the spiders. The smaller the spider, the more. It's weird because there's big giant spiders out here, and those are the ones you don't have to worry about. Like, it's like those are the ones you think you have to worry about. And you're like, no, those are peaceful. They eat like bananas and stuff. It's the little tiny ones that'll kill you. You're like, oh,
yeah, like I saw a black widow on her, like, dead on her porch last year, and I was like, oh crap, this could have been, like, we could have walked into this, like, we wouldn't have known. But yeah, apparently black widows are around here some too, so that's kind of scary thought.
Well, not necessarily spiders, but spider monkeys.
Oh, the transition king.
Shocking moment. 2 spider monkeys grab a girl by the hair through the bars after she repeatedly hits their enclosure at a Mexican zoo. I mean, if you're going to taunt the spider monkeys, you should probably get outside of their reach. Doesn't seem like
Taunt them.
I just don't know how the spider monkeys
I'm
are.
just surprised Mexico has a zoo.
Yeah, well, that's you.
Do we have a video?
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if there's a video. They are definitely not pleased with her.
There's my kids.
See, this is why I always tell my kids, don't mess with the monkeys. Leave them alone. Keep your distance.
Also, is that a girl? She looks like she's 40. They just grow up rough in Mexico, don't they? Like, just from that angle, like, and she just.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not. Yeah.
She's having a bad day, in fairness.
She ain't looking her best. Fine, fair.
Yeah.
They were not pleased with her.
Well, these are Mexican monkeys too, right? So they're like methed up, just like cartel monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, there is video. I should have scrolled.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, fuck her up.
Hey, John. Oh my God! Ya me dio miedo.
Why does it sound like they're laughing? Like, it's like they're laughing.
Man, she got away and then she went back. What was she thinking?
I guess it's better than a chimp.
Yeah, like, well, that's like the spider monkey. How do you even get pulled in by that? Like, they shouldn't be.
They're probably surprisingly strong, you know? Like, they're probably bigger than they look. But,
And
yeah,
with like a really long reach too. Like you'd probably be thinking like, oh, it's not that big of an animal, and then the arm just kind of juts out like 12 feet.
there's a billboard I passed by in Tampa yesterday, and it's for the Lowry Park Zoo. And it says, say hello to your new neighbors. And it's like 3 howler monkeys like sitting on a branch. And I'm like, man, like in this part of Tampa, that's bad taste, you know? I wanted to get a picture of it for the show, but alas, I wasn't able to get my phone out in time.
Yeah, it's like, look, man, we know we're in Florida, but still, calm down. Like, we don't lean into the whole stereotype that hard, guys. Like,
Yeah. I mean, on Nebraska Avenue in Tampa too. It's a unique part of town. There's this island
named after another. When you're named after another state, like it's. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, good. There's a place in Homosassa, and there's an island out in front of this hotel, and they've got I don't know, a few monkeys, like 3 monkeys that live on it. And once a year, some dumbass like throws a fishing lure or something on it, and the monkeys get tangled in it, and they got to go rescue them. Every now and then, I think someone tries to go on the island to be friendly with the monkeys and gets attacked. Dumbasses.
Is that like that island of where the Christian missionaries keep trying to like go to the island to convert these people, and they keep like murdering them?
Oh yeah. Well,
Have you seen that?
don't call those people monkeys, sir. That's a way to get flagged.
Yeah,
What are you trying
have the.
What are you trying to do to us here? Like,
Well, you see, Kamala Harris did have an interesting statistic that she leaked the other day, talking about a
she talk
certain
about
member of the
Kart?
populace. No, she talked about a certain member of the like a set of the population, and it was a very interesting statistic.
Oh man, Did-
I find it so fascinating.
She gave the black crime stats. I mean, like the thing that you're not allowed to talk about.
I find it so fascinating now. So Father Turbo, I don't know if you guys follow that on the Royal Path, like the Cyprian channel, and he talks about. I'm not sure if he did it on the Royal Path or some other podcast, but he talked about the apocalypse, and the meaning of apocalypse is actually is sort of like all things hidden shall be revealed, right? Like it's unveiling sort of hidden truths, and one of the, I think, markers that we know we're into an apocalypse of sort is that they can't stop. Like they can't help themselves by speaking the truth. Like there's so many instances. Like I'm trying to think of a really good example recently. Oh, when George Bush was talking and he did that speech thing where he's like, you know, how dare Putin invade Iraq or something like that. You know, he was like, he mixed up Iraq with the Ukraine, and just kind of went, you know, just kind of walked through it. It's like the truth is tumbling out of them and they can't help themselves. It's not a, I know a lot of people look at that and go, oh, Matt, you know, they're saying the quiet parts out loud. It's like, no, I think there's something like, because it's spiritual, it's not something that they can actually control. It's an epoch, you know, like it's something that's beyond their comprehension. So you're just getting all this truth kind of just spilling out. They can't. And what was it, the mayor of New York or something like that was talking about like how illegal immigration is really harming New York. You're like, did you go through your handlers on that message? Did that just come out your mouth? Like, it's just, can you stop that now? Like, it's amazing, right?
So do you think it's something that's like new, or do you think, because I was talking about this the other day, actually, I feel like a lot of it, you know, thank God for like the internet, that it's, you know, it used to be let's say some politician says something on TV. If you didn't see it, like, you didn't see it, you know, you didn't hear it, you know. But now, whenever some politician says something stupid or whatever, one of these things slips, well, it gets shared, you know, far and wide and seen again and again and again. You know, like, now we can bring up, like, it wasn't so stupid last year when they were talking about how you save 14 cents on your, you know, 4th of July celebration, because now it's so easy to show those comparisons.
And that's kind of what, you know, I wrote, I don't know if you guys read the thing that I was posted about, you can only win the culture war, because essentially they're not going to be able to stop themselves. Like, they're going to run this into the ground, and it's going to be like in like Disney's The Lion King, where like Scar basically destroyed the entire kingdom because he was just like, you know what, like we're just doing our thing, and they can't help themselves. Like there's no relenting at this point, and so they just have no option left.
I think that's what was the brilliance of Vladimir Putin. And again, I'm no Putin fan. I will rejoice the day that man dies. I think he's evil. That being said, I have to respect the game, because I think he laid a perfect trap. And the trap was this: is he understood that people's corruption had hit a certain level, and he understood the players, and he knew what breadcrumbs he could lay for them to go into it, and he knew his strengths, and he knew what his leverage is. And then, because I mean, look, and anyone who thinks that that's not true, that he's just reacting, it's like, you don't change his entire economic model overnight. Like that was a plan. He had a plan to tie gas and oil and all the rest of it to gold standard and to ruble, yeah. Right? Like that's not just something you just come up with on a Wednesday. So this is deliberate. Like all of it was deliberate. He knew exactly what they were doing and how to bait and switch them. And all the dominoes are following, you know, and you're seeing the collapse of Western civilization as the dominant power that be, post Cold War, post World War II, and this is how it is. Like this is the wet fart that we're going out with, and it's
and Putin even says something like this. He's like, you know, you in the West, like I forget, there was some kind of quote, and obviously this can be propaganda. They can be sort of propagandizing you. But definitely, it seemed like he was saying, like the way that they were translating it anyway. He was saying like, hey, the West is going to die because like you guys can't stop, but do your own destruction to yourselves. And essentially, they're completely right. Like he's completely right about that. Like the oligarchs in Russia are essentially right about that. If that is a correct translation, and they're not just trying to like you said, paralyze us with that. But I think that definitely there's not any stopping what the regime is trying to do, and essentially what they're not going to be able to help themselves but speak unspoken truths at this point because they can't. They've tackled everything else. Like there's no other land left to conquer essentially.
Yeah, well, and I think the hard swing back to the right, which is going to happen. Like it's when things really start getting hard, and people start going without food, which is going to start happening very, very soon all over the West. The swing back to the right is going to be pretty hard, and it's not. It's one of those. Owen Benjamin talked about this on his talk with Pete Quinones. And it's and he's like look, pride parades are one thing, but wrath parades are a whole different thing. And if it gets to that point, when people start looking for a scapegoat and start going, they're the reason why this isn't, this is bad, and they're going to point out to the pink-haired, rainbow people who depend on the system for everything, including protection, it's going to get really nasty real fucking fast. And that's one thing I'm not looking forward to. I don't think there's. I think we're in that. We've passed the roller coaster has passed the point, right? Like this is that feeling of inertia happening, right? And you can feel it a little bit. You can feel that kind of disquiet where you're like, oh, here we go, and it's going to take one crisis. Like you look at Sri Lanka, you look at all those other things. It's going to take one little thing, and it's going to blow up. And you take a place like the United States where people are heavily armed, and I think the pressure has been building on a lot of working class people for a long time. That's a powder keg. Michael Malice once famously said that Donald Trump wasn't the flood, he was a dam. And if you take him out, things are going to start happening.
Yeah, and that's what I think. Like if Trump does come back and he is capable of winning again, then he is going to be what is actually going to at least slow. It's going to at least make it more manageable and probably. Hopefully, if you saw the leaked plan that he has, if he comes back and he's actually, purveying right-wing values, then it's going to be really good, and it'll be at least more palatable for most people because Donald Trump's not going to go in there and be like a religious zealot and start jailing pink-haired feminists or whatever. But I do think that if Democrats get back in power and they do this whole thing again. Then essentially that's what it's going to be. That you're going to have people who just you've attacked these people for so long, and you basically waged war on them. And then when they finally wake up and realize that they are in a war, they're going to win, and they're going to be brutal about it. And that's what I think that is the most harrowing message to a lot of these people is you had better be very careful about who you're waging war against. Because you don't know the kind of people that you're actually targeting with these kind of policies and the things that they're trying to just push on people. Because these people, once they have finally hit their limit, they don't know when they're not going to know when to stop.
Well, y'all got way too serious on that. Trey mentioned mentioned when there's no more land to conquer. Well,
you're all going to die.
When there's no more land to conquer, you have to move to space. And according to this, astronauts should not masturbate in zero gravity. At least that's according to some NASA scientists. Because you should definitely trust the science. I bet it does.
I thought this was America. I'd be like, I thought, wait.
Did they not send women up with these men astronauts? I thought there were women and men astronauts. So can they not just get it on?
Because you'll accidentally impregnate them.
Yeah.
I wonder how that works at zero G. Well,
you just be like little droplets. It'd be just like floating around. Like you ever see them putting out water and then they
Yeah,
the
it
water
like dissipates. Yeah.
yeah, it comes into a glob.
You just got to
and it's
use a rubber. You're fine.
yeah. Although that'd be kind of pointless. Like
Catch that shit.
Then all of a sudden that hold up.
So in 0G, does the sperm travel more quickly towards the? How does that work exactly? I wonder how that works.
Well, it would just casually like it would probably be sort of moving through the air like in a sort of dissipating and joining back together like blob.
Astronauts
Find
have
this one
been
with a
warned
pant leg.
against masturbating in space over fears female astronauts could get impregnated by stray fluids.
Oh my gosh.
There are strict guidelines over alone time on board in zero gravity. Scientists have warned even the slightest rogue droplet could cause chaos on board.
See,
monkeypox
this
in
is
space.
no. This is what they're worried about with the Roe v. Wade overturn. Like because they're just gonna jerk it in space, and then all of a sudden there's gonna be the female astronaut pregnant.
Well, space abortions would be
Coming
easy,
up,
right?
instrument controls.
Just put your vagina in the vacuum and just let it suck it right out. Wouldn't that be the whole thing? Like,
There's probably like 6 devices on board the space shuttle or whatever they use these days that are capable of performing that procedure. There's a toilet. There's an airlock. There's all sorts of shit.
There's a space coat hanger. I mean, come on, like this is.
It costs $17,000 for that space coat hanger.
Sex and masturbation in space is a logistical nightmare, with problems ranging from floating fluids to shrinking manhoods. According, would it shrink? I mean, I get it; it's cold in space, but if you're inside of the spaceship, shouldn't it be?
We
warm?
all know what that is. We all know what that is. The guy's like, it's shrinkage. It's just shrinkage. Look at this. Like it's normally like foot long, man. But like, yeah, but right now it's an Oscar Mayer wiener. Like,
he compares.
Yeah, look, I'm a grower, not a shower. Like,
so astronomer Dr. John Millis compared sex in space to having intercourse while skydiving, but he added that it's not impossible. Like now I found something that I need to add to my bucket list that I never even realized I needed to add to my bucket list: skydiving.
I thought you were gonna say going up to space and then jerking it. Yeah.
Sky cranking.
Sex while skydiving. I wonder how high you have to get before that 45 seconds is up, and then you need to pull the chute.
45 seconds. Come on. You got to at least hit the 2-minute mark.
I always said that's why I like punk music, so I can make it through at least 1 or 2 songs. Feel good about myself. Songs are a minute and a half. So.
Yeah, I have a 2-year-old, so like sex is just something that we talk about. Like, remember that? Remember we used to do that? Yeah, that used to be fun. Because
when did you have 2?
Huh?
When did you have 2?
Yeah. Well, that's the plan. Like, we can't even get on to the second one because the first one is just sapping of our energy. I honestly don't like. My wife comes from a family of 6. I'm like, I don't know how you did that. Like, that's just tip of the hat. Because like, I have no energy at the end of the time. I'm like, this is gonna be the saddest sex in the world, man. Be like just two pieces of Wonder Bread kind of just slapping against.
Wait till they get older. It doesn't get any better. The oldest, he came in one night. He had been out with friends and came in and heard noises and like comes barging in the bedroom thinking that something else was going on. And it's like, dude, get the fuck out. If the door is closed,
you guys wrestling in here?
Well, that's why I'm not teaching my daughter how to use doorknobs. Like, I'm just telling her it's like no. They're full of it's on fire. It's gonna burn you. Don't ever touch the door. See, you gotta think ahead. This is the whole problem with a lot of parents. You're just not thinking ahead, man. You're not using the information that you have already and utilizing that into a game plan. You're just like,
see, as far as I'm concerned, it was his own fault because his curfew was 11 o'clock and it's like 9:30. He should not have been home for another hour and a half at least. He came home early. Like, that's on him. That's not on me. I'm terribly sorry that you had to experience that, but like, you should have stayed out later with your friends. I don't know what to tell you.
I hear that it's way better to walk in on both your parents than just one of them. It's just a bit more disturbing that way.
Mom and her massager. Yeah.
Yep.
Look at this cool lightsaber.
Or the
I found,
pizza delivery guy.
That's not your back.
Or the plumber. Like all of a sudden, oh yeah, you can do my plumbing.
Uncle Ralph.
Oh God!
I ain't your
Speaking
uncle.
of Uncle Ralph,
Hang on, I gotta throw the dogs
I'm
out.
your Uncle Daddy.
Oh fuck. So there's when he comes back, hopefully we get this. There's this article that we had that I really liked. Are you guys familiar with something called noodling?
I've heard it, but I don't remember what the term
Oh,
is.
the landscaper. Yeah.
It's fishing with your hand. I think they had a fucking stupid reality TV show about it.
What? Fishing.
Oh,
With
like
your
where
hand?
You catfish. Yeah, you like reach
Yeah,
down like
grab
under the
'em.
water and you find the catfish in the mouth. Yeah, you grab them in the
Yeah.
mouth and pull them up. It seems horrifying. I can't believe people do
Fucking
it.
hillbilly
Justin,
shit
we
is this?
got an article. Yeah. Oh,
People do it all the time.
we have an article. We have an article about some noodlers here, and it is just to answer your question of what kind of hillbilly shit is this. This is just perfect.
Wait, where's this noodling
Okay.
article?
The Sasquatch one.
Oh, yes.
So-
That's what they
one
were
was
doing when this incident happened.
Oh, they were
was
squatching?
noodling.
So,
No,
so
they were
in,
noodling.
in Australia, rednecks are called Bogans, which is one of my favorite Australian slangs because it's almost it's like when you say it, you're like, oh yeah,
I'm
you
sure
know
the
exactly what that
accent
is.
is pretty funny.
Yeah, freaking Bogans,
Yeah,
mate,
there you go.
drinking out of goon banks. That's my horrible Australian accent.
This is a man accused of killing friend claims it was to stop him from summoning Sasquatch.
Oh my god!
Is this some Florida shit?
No, it actually, I don't think
No,
it
it's
was
Oklahoma.
Florida, yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
more like
they were out
Appalachians.
out noodling and doing drugs, likely. And I guess the one guy, I assume one guy was fucking with the other. I'm gonna get Sasquatch to get you, and they fought for an hour, and he killed his friend because his friend was gonna summon Sasquatch to come attack him. Allegedly, 6 Sasquatch on him. And
Larry
yeah,
Doyle
yeah.
Sanders, 53, had been noodling, a way of catching catfish via hand, with friend Jimmy Knighton, also 53, along the South Canadian River in Pontotoc County on Saturday. Larry claimed that while at the river, he discovered Jimmy intending to feed him to Sasquatch Bigfoot. Larry said Jimmy attempted to get away from him so that Sasquatch could eat Larry. Sanders
Oh my
fought
God.
Knighton, basically tricked him into being out there, and the two fought for an hour. He appeared to be under the influence of something, Sheriff John Chastain told.
Probably that Appalachian meth.
Yeah, meth,
Jeez.
bathtub meth, and PBR, man. But dangerous
His statement
combination.
was that Mr. Knighton had summoned Bigfoot to come kill him, and that's why he had to kill Mr. Knighton.
Dude, this had to be meth because I had neighbors that were on meth whenever I was growing up, and these guys would be up at like like 3 or 4 a.m. and they'd be mowing their lawn and they had like no grass out there and they're just like mowing it, and then they work on cars and most of them were probably stolen. Honestly, I don't doubt. I know they stole our go-kart. They stole it out of our yard and then they fixed it up. I think they souped it up with some kind of big engine. So.
Yeah, that guy has been arrested for meth. So that would be a good you're spot on there.
Yeah.
See, I know meth head when I see them.
It's an interesting thing because it's like the first day or so you're fine, but once you haven't slept or ate or drank for 3 to 5 days, things start getting really weird.
In
Really
2019, he was placed on probation for 5 years for bringing meth into the jail after being arrested for public intoxication. He got arrested for public intoxication and brought meth to jail with him.
Weird. Something to do.
That sounds just like our jail. Like I feel like I know these people.
He's like, well, if you're gonna arrest me, I may as well keep myself occupied while I'm there. Bring some meth.
It's stories
There's
like
a reason our local jail got actually put on. What was that? What's that show where they put in like regular people as inmates? What's that show? It was really popular a few years ago.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, they put some like regular people in there, and there's all these meth heads and people who like would make makeshift shanks and stuff like that. The prison was pretty bad.
Yeah, I was going to say something. I can't remember.
What? So have y'all ever seen like noodlers, like the guys who actually like fish for these?
Not
All
in
right,
real
It's the
life.
dumbest thing. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like
So,
there's
worst.
chimpanzees who figured out how to use spears now, right? Like there's chimps out in the Amazon who have started figuring out basic tools. Like
well,
using rocks
rednecks
instead of
in the
hammers.
South have not figured
While
that
rednecks
out.
in the-
They
yeah,
would
they're just
rather do it
regressive.
by hand.
Oh, that was my point. That was my point. When you hear things about like great replacement theory or they're trying to get rid of people, I'm like, it may not be all that bad. Like maybe
There's a
maybe
few
a
I'd
little
swap
bit of
out.
genocide. You might be clearing up the gene pool a little bit. And like, I'm
Look,
not
other
saying-
than the meth heads, like the us rednecks here in the South, we're a different breed. I'll just say that.
So some of these catfish will get up to like 4 or 5 foot long. Like they'll seriously be that big around and 4 or 5 foot long. And so that's what these guys are fishing for. And what they do is and catfish are bottom feeders. So what they do is they'll get in like a shallow part of a river or something, and
They have waders on. Yeah.
and they'll just like bend over and stick their arm down on the
Bottom surface, and then just like sweep for it.
yeah.
try to
And
grab
then once
them.
they find
Yeah.
it, they like reach up in this fucker's mouth,
Mouth,
and then
yeah.
yank it up by the mouth. Well, so
And you got to watch out. They have barbs. Like the catfish have like barbs on the side of them, and you will cut yourself if you.
Right,
That's
so
why
that's why they go
that's
for
why
the-
it's stupid. That's why
But
it's
that's why they
fucking
go for the
stupid.
mouth, because they have the barbs on the side. So you go for the mouth because like the teeth
Yeah.
aren't like
You can make a
they'll have
spear.
they'll have like bruises on their arms and stuff from where the teeth will kind of get them, but it's not as bad as like the barbs that they have on their sides. So like those will actually like fucking cut you. Whereas
They got poison and shit in them. Yeah.
yeah, the barbs
Dang.
or the teeth will just like leave bruises on your arm. So you're like reaching up in this fucker's mouth, and then you yank it up by the mouth, and it's like you got this big like 5 foot long fucking catfish that weighs 30 pounds. It's like it's like one of those gladiator game type things. Like it's it's like football and all the other like masculine shit that dudes do that doesn't make
Male
any fucking
showmanship.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's cool as shit. I have no interest in it.
There's
Yeah,
snapping
Carlos,
turtles
I'm a-
down there, man.
I'm an
Well, you
elitist.
shoot those fuckers in the head. That's
I'm the dark elf who just believes like sticking your hand in an animal's mouth is a bad freaking idea. Like
Or just
when
holes
when you have
underwater?
options, I can understand if you're like, you're caught on a desert island. There was no other food source. You're like, well, got to do this, right? Like, but like, there's like, if you're out in the woods, you grab a piece of wood, you whittle it down. You got to spear the fucking thing. Like it's.
Have you seen the video?
Well, it's like even if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to hold it by the mouth at some point because you gotta be able to hold it by the mouth and be able to fillet it and everything. So
Have you seen the videos of like the guys, like the swamp people type guys that go out like hunting for the big alligator snapping turtles, and like they'll be barefoot wading through like a creek or a pond or something, and they'll
dude, I
find
got
them,
bit by.
and you'll see them like they'll be standing on its back and they're just like bouncing up and down where the turtle is trying to get them off of it, and then they'll reach down and like they're really careful about it, but they'll find its tail and like they'll pull it up by the tail. So when you catch one of those, especially if it's like early spring after they've been, because they'll bury themselves for the winter and just like live in the mud for 3 or 4 months when it's cold. So what you have to do is when you pull those things out, you have to put them in a bathtub with fresh water and let them like flush all of the mud and shit out of their system for a couple weeks before you actually like cook them. Otherwise, they just taste like straight mud and shit. So there's some if you choose to go snapping turtle hunting, make sure you soak those fuckers in a bathtub full of fresh water for a couple weeks before you cook them. Otherwise, it's going to be an unpleasant experience.
don't put them in the same bathtub as your meth. Like keep those 2 bathtubs separate. Just,
Yeah,
don't wanna
make
mix
sure
it
you
up.
tell your kids.
I put a catfish video in the chat.
Yeah,
Very
meth is not a good seasoning. Just anyone needs to, anyone wondering.
So, is there an Australian Sasquatch? There's got to be. Huh?
No idea. Probably. Here's the thing: is like, so Carlos is telling me I'm Jason Mulbug, but it's kind of a weird thing when one thing that Mulbug talked about or Yarvin talked about was like being like an expat in your own country. Is like if you go to Costa Rica, you just kind of you're dimly aware of Costa Rican culture and laws and stuff, and you kind of just do that, and you just don't screw around with power structure because why would you, right? And that's how I feel like in Australia. I'm so dimly aware of things. Like I use certain words and colloquialisms like bogan or whoop whoop or whatever like that, goon bags, because it's easier, right, to communicate with people. But other than that, I don't know. I don't pay attention to anything. Wild turkey, there we go, sir. Yeah, I need to go get a drink. But
what did you at least go a step further than Brittany Griner and find out what drugs you could and couldn't illegally smuggle into the country?
Hey, I didn't try to bring my dog in. Yeah. Actually, it was
you're supposed to bring the drugs inside the dog and then get them out later.
Yeah. Well,
real professional, like the professional drug smugglers where they like stick it up there. But there was actually in that show that I was talking about, there was one chick who got admitted to the jail that we had in our county, and then she was like pulling drugs out of her vagina. So,
nice.
So that tells you how white trash that our county is.
Where are you?
While everybody refreshes their drink, let's watch a video of a girl getting a catfish stuck in her leg.
I'm gonna dip, you guys. Take care.
Oh, thanks for coming on, man. Dumbasses.
Oh my god, I can just smell it. There's some kind of diseases that are going on right now. Oh my god! It's like stuck in my leg. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, Jesus.
No, stop. It's okay.
Oh, that fucking hurts.
Like, I'm about to cry. You have to like, probably not get us. No, we probably would be. I don't want to open it out.
I agree with Carlos.
I'm trying to. Oh my god. Ow.
Unless you're trying to party, that is.
Here, you try. No. Wait, this is really bad. Get that guy back down here. All right.
They're like fucking barbed
Hey, go get
and
Brett.
shit, man.
Go get. Okay, I'm getting Brett. Can we?
Bread? Oh, Brett.
Brett,
Okay.
yeah.
Get a man.
What is Brett gonna do?
Seems like this goes on for a while. I'm glad the action was in the beginning.
Look, this guy. Look, he's
We're
coming.
gonna have to call an ambulance.
Yeah, can you help us, please?
Can you help us pull this fish out of my leg?
1, 2.
No, you're not. Dean, it's gonna be fine. We're getting Brett.
This poor guy's like, what am I supposed to do with this fucking fish?
You kind of got to be the man in the situation, but you're like, I told you bitches not to be fucking around.
It's okay. We're gonna be all right. It's only okay to fuck around. No, I'm just kidding.
She's taking it pretty well, I gotta say.
This is the most redneck shit I've ever seen, and I'm pretty fucking redneck.
Yeah, even when they're dead.
We just want to pull it out the right way. Yeah. I'm about to cry. I'm about to fucking
Get 2 White Claws in them. Oh shit! What's up, Goon? How you doing, man?
Will you pull it out? Will you find the way to?
You're gonna need some.
Oh,
I'll
you know,
do it.
just
Like, they need
watching
to
some
do
chick
it.
with a catfish stuck in her leg.
It's hard in there. Like, it's almost like the things are backwards.
Yeah, man. Watching talking about a catfish. We just did a
No, it's
noodling
fucking
story. There's
fins or
Bigfoot.
scales.
It's a whole thing.
See, this is why you catch the catfish up in their mouth and not grab them by the sides. Because you grab them by the sides, you're liable to get finned, and then they're stuck forever.
I mean, yeah. Is there like anybody out here that's a doctor or something?
Man, they're calling for doctors and all kinds of shit. This is getting crazy. All right, that's gonna go way too long.
Yeah.
Like,
We'll check back. We'll check back in on them here in about 10 minutes whenever they figure out how to get this fucking fish out of her leg.
I don't think I've ever been stabbed by a catfish.
I have been. I've been gotten by a brim and crappie, but never by a catfish.
Yeah, I might have gotten poked once or twice, you know, by some back fins, but nothing with poison in it.
Have you ever been bit by a turtle?
No, it was my biggest fear though growing up, man. Because like the rivers that we swam in, they were tannicky, brown or whatever, and I wasn't really afraid of alligators, but the alligator snapping turtles, I was terrified of those fucking things. They were huge. But yeah, those I mean, they could just be on the bottom, man. You put your foot in one of their mouths.
I mean, as a kid, like we used to run around barefoot all the time, and especially like around the ponds and stuff. And I remember
that's
one
just
time,
because you couldn't afford shoes. Come on, be honest. Like, come on.
My wife has informed me that I was not actually raised poor. That we had lots of money. I just thought we were poor because my mom and dad were incredibly frugal. And I guess she probably was right because my wife was legitimately raised poor. But
you
if you
only had like one pair of shoes in the entire house, you just time shared that thing around. Like, what do you need shoes for? Where are you going?
Hey, who's turn is to go outside?
Don't go where the glass is. Come on, use your noggin. Lord gave you a brain. Why ain't you using it?
So we would run around outside all the time, especially around the pond and stuff. And I remember one time like running around the pond and I hit something that was like really hard. It's like, that's not normal ground. And so we go back to check it because, dumbass kid. I think I was like maybe 9 at the time. And it was this giant fucking snapping turtle. And so a buddy of ours who was out there running around with us, like he pulled this fucking thing up by its tail and we carry it back up to the house and like set it out in front of the house. And we're poking it with sticks and stuff, like kind of driving it around the house so that we can show it to my mom and dad. And this thing, like, we had good sized stick that we're poking it with, and it just like bites a stick clean in half. It's like, imagine if that had been my toe. Like I wouldn't have a toe anymore. I'm just, yeah.
The other thing we've got here are stingrays that are always kind of scary. You gotta shuffle when you're at the beach so you don't step on them.
Florida's like the Australia of America.
It really is.
Yeah. I mean, it depends where you are in Australia, though, right? Because I always heard all those things, and like we're out here, we have my daughter got bit by a duck. Like that's about it. That's all I always worry about. And again, like I think I don't know if I said this before we started going live, but you got to worry about the tiny spiders, not the big ones. Like there's like big giant spiders, but they're not really here. Like they're more like in Melbourne and Victoria, where it's more like rainforesty. Out here in the West, it's
scary.
like, yeah, we have like I think there's emus around somewhere.
Speaking of emus, we've got an emu story.
I got startled by an emu on the job the other day. I looked up and there's just one like 10 feet away from me on the other side of a fence. I did not expect to see that. Yeah,
they're scary looking animals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in the whole like birds used to be dinosaurs, but the emu stuff, I'm like, maybe there's some truth in that.
Well, it's funny, like when I watch my birds and I'm like, those motherfuckers are dinosaurs. But then I'm like, that's just because I've seen Jurassic Park. Like, so we don't know if that's actually how they are.
There's an entire ostrich. This is some Northside shit, by the way. Oh my goodness.
Some Northside shit.
Who ostrich escaped?
Yeah.
A bunch of people in the hood just have like random like exotic birds. Like what? I watch Boys to Men. Like I watch like like Tales from the Hood. I never saw no ostrich farms up in that motherfucker. But okay.
Cockfighting, dog fighting.
Of course, this is a black woman. Y'all see this ostrich? Somebody done lost a ostrich. It was an ostrich actually, but you can mark a Houston police chase with an emu off your bingo card.
Y'all see this ostrich? Somebody done lost their ostrich.
Bill Earl. What you doing?
I'm running.
Billy Earl.
He moving now. He move. What? Who in the world? What the?
I want to see what the cops do. Like, when they get him like the thing cornered, they're like, now what? What do we do?
It's Texas, bro. He's gonna lasso him.
Y'all, that is crazy to me.
Which one do people eat?
If they called the ATF, they'd have shot it.
Might have had to. What do people eat? What do people do with emus? People eat ostriches, right?
You can eat them. You can eat them. They're like because they're relatives to an ostrich. And
can you ride them?
Let's see your Boys to Men. was that a band?
Boys to Men was a R&B group. Yes.
Okay, but what was a movie? Boys
in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm white,
it was like Ice Cube and shit.
I'm just a poor little Ukrainian Polish man trying to make it good in the world. I don't know y'all culture. Like,
so when I was in high school, there were some chicken barns that were going in close to us, and the big scare that everybody had was that the chicken barns were going to stink. It was going to smell bad, and everybody would have to deal with this. So this guy whose property like backed up to where the chicken barns were going in, he fenced a big portion of it off, and he got a bunch of emus and put them out there because supposedly emus carry some sort of disease that kills chickens. Well, obviously that didn't work because those big industrial chicken barns are like really well controlled. So like no random disease that some emus are carrying is going to actually get in and affect these things. So then this guy was just stuck with like 3 emus, and they're mean as fuck. Like they are insanely, like, these are evil fucking bastard birds. And so this
aggressive.
this guy was just like stuck with 3 emus on the backside of his property for no reason other than he was trying to kill off chickens, and it didn't work. It was
you know what's we have some alpacas because the alpacas kind of are good for guarding sheep. Like that's what they naturally do. And you ever get stared down by an alpaca? It's kind of emasculating because it's like this weird. Poodle. Well, it's like a poodle deer, right? Like it's fluffy and stuff, but it's got this long neck, and if you just saw one on paper, you'd be like, I could mess with that, and then it just kind of just stares you down, and they'll spit at you, right? And they get like that flat like Herbert, those big ass like plant eating teeth, right? Like it's just one of those things where if you got bit by it, it wouldn't tear skin off you, but it would really freaking hurt. So
like all molar.
Yeah. So I've been stared down by an alpaca, and you're like, not doing that today. No, sir.
Yeah, they're pretty big. We have goats currently, and that's the biggest livestock that I'm still getting comfortable with.
Yeah, goats are. Well, I mean, even goats, right? Like goats, if I watched, there's one dominant goat that headbutts the other ones. Sort of, it's like the alpha, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to get hit by that thing because it can pick up speed. Like you're going at.
They're built for that, man. I mean, they're built for ramming.
Well, I guess that's kind of the nice thing about having goats is like, if I'm really pissed off, and the goats are acting like assholes, then you can just walk out there and like punch one in the head, and they think it's a fun game, and they're like, "Yeah, let's do that again." It's like it's really a good way to blow off steam. Our male, he wants me to do that. Like he will come up to me and he'll like bite at my pants, and he wants me to like punch him in the head and wrestle with him and stuff. And it's fun sometimes, but sometimes it's annoying as shit. It's like, dude, I really don't want to fight with a goat today. Can you just leave me the fuck alone? I'm just trying to walk by and enjoy my time out in the yard. I really don't want to do this.
Is it typically boy goats that are meaner?
The female does. She just wants to sit in your lap. She thinks she's a dog. It is. It's also annoying. Yeah, the male he will literally like bite at my pants, and if I just try to rub him, he'll put his horn like in my hand. He wants me to grab him by the horns and like shake him around and get rough with him. Like he wants to roughhouse and play like that. And some days I just don't want to do that. I don't like. Some days I just don't feel like fucking wrestling with a goat. I just want to walk through the yard and be left alone.
He who wrestles with goats.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
It's one thing though, too. Like back in my atheist days, one of the Sam Harris and all the rest of them would say things like that religion was basically created to control like dumb sheep herders. Like they always talk like kind of talk down about sheep herders or goat herders and that. And it's like then you spend some time around actual farmers and actual livestock. And like like these people may not be sophisticated, but they ain't stupid. Like to deal with even sheep, you have to have a lot of knowledge. Yeah. It's not like these aren't dumb people. They're just like they got other shit to do. It's like, yeah, sorry, Sam, they're not like digesting philosophy because they're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and dealing with sheep. Like, have you ever done that? No, so shut the fuck up. Like, it's not. These aren't dumb people.
It does sound kind of cool to being like a shepherd like that, where you get up and hang out with your, obviously it's work, but hang out with your sheep or goats or whatever all day and keep them around and guard them and chill. What the fuck else are you gonna do out there?
What, Carlos? You never heard of that idea? What's interesting? What idea is that?
He's talking about the that atheistic line of thinking that religion was created to kind of corral stupid, uneducated people.
Just control in general. Which I'm a little more to the point these days where I'm like, even if that's the case, maybe it was some good lessons, and it was a lot of time that they took to develop, even if it's all fake and made up. Like, they took some time to develop it, and maybe there was a reason. Maybe there. I wish I believed in it. I really do.
I've said. I went through a spiritual awakening, which I don't recommend anyone doing. And I know how that sounds. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Because I was a 32-year-old atheist, and then had a moment where I felt it. I've talked about this on other podcasts before. I'm going to stop telling the story because I feel it's cheapening it. But either way, like I went from atheist to an Orthodox Christian in the span of like 2 months. The one thing about religion is that religion is set up on taboos and prohibitions. Like that's kind of its whole purpose, but or fundamental purpose, other than the actual spiritual divinity part. But that's not a bad thing. Like we always talked about these things, even as someone who followed the New Atheist for a long time. It's like we talked about these things as if morality was just something we had evolved into, and if you take out societal controls, that it will just keep following this programming. It's like, well, obviously not. That's so. We've done this program for a bit now, and it picked up speed in the last 20, 30 years, and now we can see what's happening. Like look out, just go on YouTube for 2 seconds, and you find out that actually we do need those. We do need those fences. We do need those social fences, because otherwise you get people, chemically castrating their 5-year-old kids. Like, I'm not saying that.
Well, it's like I had a buddy that made the argument. He was raised Catholic, but from having conversations with him as we've grown into adults, his version of Catholicism much more closely aligns with what I would consider atheism. Honestly, like it's really not. There is no religion to his, or there is no faith to his religion. So, in like conversations I've had with him around like abortion and gun control and stuff like that, he's like, "Well, we've evolved past the point of needing all of this stuff." And it's like, we really haven't. Have you looked at humanity as a whole? Like, no, we have not. Like, we have not. We are not some higher being than what we were 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. We're still effectively the same cave people that bash each other over the head with clubs. We've just developed the clubs a little bit better. I mean, shit.
One of the
my
great
club
things
is
about...
my developed club is a regular member of the show. We have figured out a way to more efficiently bash each other over the head with clubs, but
and fish apparently, like
so let's address this right quick with Carlos. So he was talking about the the sheep and goat herders and using religion to control those people. So why do we politically call normies sheep? So the differentiation there is the sheep themselves are the dumb animals. The sheep herders and the goat herders are not. They're actually incredibly intelligent. Like, it takes some level of skill and knowledge to effectively manage an entire herd of sheep. And like, talking about the fences here, like, fences aren't even necessary if you are good at what you do, really. Like,
they're herd animals. If you do it right, they stay in a group.
Right. Fences are a thing that are more of a modern society type of thing, but it's in those times, like in the times when religion was in its early stages, like, fences were not commonplace. The sheep and the goat herders controlled their flock without the use of fences and stuff like that. Like,
because you think about the resources too, right? Everything is time.
Yeah.
So I have this idea for a conversation. I'm going to reach out to I reached out to one Australian homesteader guy who's fairly prevalent on Twitter, and then he said he couldn't do it. So I'm going to reach out to this other guy because I feel like there's a lot of people in our space kind of thing, like in sort of that. I don't even know how to define what group we are anymore.
It's a
and I
little
find
looser these days.
it's constantly evolving.
I just enjoy it, just being sort of like some sort of like, I guess people are going to call it right wing. I don't really agree with the label, but fine, whatever, right? Orthodox. We'll say it's an orthodox.
Critical
viewpoint.
Thinkers. I mean,
yeah, that's cringe.
Hey, I got Clyde and Tag to both admit they were post-libertarians on a show one day. I can pull it up.
I don't remember that happening.
I agree with LB that post-libertarianism is. I was never libertarian. I looked at that stuff and was like, that's just communism with extra steps. But I have an old. So I did this. I had started this podcast about 6 years ago, and I stopped a little while ago. Like, I stopped after a year and a half because YouTube was getting weird. But I remember one of the episodes was basically an open letter to ANCAPs where I was laid it out. I'm like, look, man, this is just communism. Like, everything you're proposing here eventually leads to communism, because you're gonna run into these problems. This whole free market thing is gonna start to evolve into communism. And I laid it out pretty much back then, and then flash forward a few years later, and then Matt Erickson and a few others are saying like the exact same thing. It's like, this is just communism. Like, you're gonna just, anarchism. To me, whenever I heard about any kind of anarchism, like, you're just dissolving the state, right? Which is going to lead to
I am
power
kind of with
vacuums.
Carlos here.
What's that?
I had herding talk.
No post-libertarian talk. The herding religion talk was fire. Oh, okay, well, yeah. But
one of
yeah,
my favorite things, if we want to talk fences, seriously, like barbed wire, the story of like barbed wire coming to existence and like how much that changed the fucking planet is just crazy, but it was a similar kind of thing, like, because we were raising beef in the West where you really had to range them quite a bit, like when you're raising sheep in the desert. But yeah, like, just the invention of barbed wire, like, fucking changed the world, man. Really fucking cool. Barbed wire museum in Lubbock, Texas. I'd like to make it out there one day. We'll see.
Your tax dollars hard at work.
Hey,
Although,
maybe it's privately funded by Big Barbed Wire. Who knows?
But without doxing myself too much, I do some work at a nature playground, and I had to remove a lot of barbed wire because it used to be an old farm. So I had to remove, like, I don't know what I removed a lot of barbed wire, and removing barbed wire is not fun because I didn't even have the proper, like, metal gloves. Like, I just had
Sticky
like
gloves.
just thick. Yeah, I just had like sort of like thick gloves, but it wasn't like, I think you get like sort of like almost like chainmail kind of gloves to do it properly. And but so what you're telling me, Carlos, Mexicans don't know barbed wire? They're like, that just hasn't come down to Mexico yet. They're like, barbed wire.
Well, labor's still cheap enough down there where they can still have cowboys. So
True.
Because that's what they used to have cowboys be in the physical fence. But then barbed wire put them all out of work.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like, but anyways, going back to the whole religion being a social mechanism, it's like, yes, yep, That's true.
Mhm.
But it can be a social mechanism, and it can also be a metaphysical system brought down by the all being of time, space, and dimension. Like these two things can also coexist.
Yeah.
They're not competing realities in some ways, which again, it's like, I spent a long time ignoring and downplaying that. But once you see it and once it clicks in your head, you're like, oh no, these two things are completely congruous, because it's like when you have kids. There's a reason why God's talked about it as a father, right? And you have kids, and you're like, oh yeah, if you look at it through this lens of telling your child, like, and I think good parenting is like you warn your child about something, you try to have, you try to make sure they don't do something really seriously stupid, but at the same time they're going to keep doing this thing that you go like my daughter, right, likes to stand up on the chair. She forgets herself, and we taught her how to sit down on a chair, but she likes to stand up on it. And I kept telling her, like, you got to sit down on the chair, you got to sit down on the chair, you got to sit down on the chair. And one day she was standing on it and she slipped off the chair, and she didn't really hurt herself. She scared herself more than anything. And I'm like, see, that's why you don't stand up on chairs. And that's God. Like, that's basically God going to us going, look, dipshit, like, just don't do that. Just don't do these things. We're like, well, can we do a little bit of that? And he's like, fuck around and find out, I guess, And I feel that's a Western civilization to a degree. But it has a meta come into play for hurting weather cycles, eclipses. I don't know.
So I think what Carlos is getting at with that is,
Sorry, Carlos. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm trying to.
I think what Carlos is getting at with this is there are a lot of aspects of pagan religions that got tied into or incorporated into Christianity over the years. So I actually did a episode on this with a buddy of mine, Giles, and we looked at Christmas, Easter, and Halloween, and how the pagan traditions of those holidays ended up getting incorporated into Christianity, and kind of the way that they all.
But only Roman Catholicism, though. Only Roman Catholicism.
Right, which at the time was the prevalent religion and was kind of the one that was right. Because I guess
because of the Fourth Crusade. Because of
Roman Catholicism was the corporately approved narrative of that age, I think, is the best.
So I mean, Roman Catholicism figured out the trick of prophesizing, and the Romans were good with this, right? Like they took the old Roman style of going over to the Romans figured out at some point, like, you can't just, you're going to waste a lot of energy trying to take over Gaul, like trying to kill, go to war with Gaul and militarily take it over. What's better is you just go in there and you find the leaders and you co-opt the leaders, right? You co-opt the tribe elders or whoever in the show, make them take the knee, and then everyone else falls in line. All right, because this goes back to Girardian modeling, and we can get into those woods. But like so it's way easier and way more effective in time and less resource costly just to take over things. And that's what the Roman Catholics kind of basically did, was like they just went into to the Norse, went to Scandinavia, and it was like, oh yeah, no, like Zeus and God, same guy, man. Like, what do you need? Like, we can incorporate your ideas into it, which is why.
So that's like,
which is why I don't like the Roman Catholics. But
well, that's like when you look at Christmas and the tradition around Christmas, and then you look at those side by side with Yule. Like, the reason that they did that was to make it an easier conversion to bring pagans into the Roman Catholic Church. Like, you attract more flies with honey than vinegar. Like, it was an easy step, and it gave them something to kind of build their holiday around, because prior to 2001, who's going to celebrate the birth of Jesus on September 11th, right? Because have you not heard that? So if you look at calendars and constellational maps and stuff like that, and go back to around the time of Jesus' birth.
if you go with the Gregorian calendar rather than if you go by lunar cycles, yeah.
Right.
Again,
Jesus
if
was
we go
born around September 11th, which is actually an interesting date
again,
because there have
point of
historically
contention, but
been so there have historically been a lot of there have been like a lot of big assassination attempts or actually successful assassinations and other things that have happened on September 11th throughout history. Like that's an incredibly significant day outside of 2001, but most average idiots don't know that. So
if you look at lockdowns, if you look at lockdown dates, especially in the United States, they were falling around Christmas. There was one big lockdown. They were falling around. The beginning of Lent was the first big lockdown in I think it was in March. There was a second lockdown again in I think around Easter. Like if you can line it up, I think Cyprian or some other people have done that, where you can line up lockdowns, COVID lockdowns, and ramping up of the narrative, let's say, around certain Christian holidays and big events, right? And sometimes it's more useful to use the Orthodox calendar, which is what I do. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, I'm one of those guys, partly because I'm fairly new to the space. So I'm always I always tell people, like, don't take religious advice from me. I'm a neophyte at best. But also it's like I hear a lot of this sort of historical back and forth with a lot of this stuff, especially between the Roman Catholics and the Orthodox. And I just sit back and like, has nothing to do with my faith. Like, I don't really care what was going on in Constantinople in like year 2. It doesn't change that wasn't why are we're looking at girls in bikinis and talking about
I
God.
said we would check back later and see if these bitches ever got this fish out of her ass.
Oh shit! I missed this.
Apparently, you missed the girl who got the catfish stuck in her butt or in her leg. Sorry, in her leg. They've got ice out. They're trying to get the.
Got to pee on it.
Is it like a jellyfish? Shit. No, it's a catfish. You got poop on it. Poop on it. Get a cat over here. You gotta get cat piss on it.
Cut off my leg.
Rub cat feces in it.
Yeah, no,
I think you're gonna have to cut off my leg.
But I will say that you really do have to ask the doctor.
The video ends and they still don't have the fish out of her leg.
Man, he's in there.
Justin, she ain't no drug trafficker. We don't know that for sure, sir. We do not know that for sure.
This is going to be because I've been drinking. So for those of you who weren't aware, I actually did a recording of an episode for my own show and solo. And then I did a recording of my episode doing an interview. And then I jumped on Eric's Rebel Without a Cause for about an hour and a half and talked to him and Forrest Mommy and Clint from Liberty Lockdown for a little bit.
Did you really?
We did not take jabs at each other. We actually got along. I need to go try to talk to him.
Did he try to block you in midstream or?
No, it was fun. And then I left that to come straight here and do this show. And I've been drinking the whole time. So I started drinking at about 4:00 this afternoon.
Nice.
And that's 4:00 Central Time. So I've been drinking for 4 hours straight. So
Is that a
I've
record?
just turned this into a revolving door of whoever says, "Hey, send me a link." I'm gonna send you a link, and you're jumping in. So we got Sam. Sam is joining.
Hey guys, good to meet you. I've been bullshitting with you for a minute. I'm glad you're all drinking.
This is my first time drinking since I got the COVID. So it's been like a week and a half.
Oh. Dude, I had the COVID
weird.
when I was down in Mississippi, and I got stuck there on account of that I got COVID, and the lady I was staying with, she got stuck with me because then she got COVID, and it was thank God that I got that vaccine is what she said. Well, I was sick for a day and a half, and she was like laid up for a week and a half, and I was like,
oh wow,
like, go ahead, like.
You know what's really cool is me and Sam have the same chair.
Oh wow!
I'm kind of envious. How are those chairs? How are those chairs? What brand is it?
I don't even know because I'm at my friend's house sitting. The last time I was on your podcast, I was at another friend's house podcasting. They had Great Danes. These guys got like little Chiweenie puppies. So if you see little puppies running in the background,
I feel
way
like
cooler.
I feel based on the dogs and that thing sign behind you that there's like a live laugh love
There's a
mural
this is
somewhere in that
us,
house.
our life,
either-
our story, our home.
There we go. Same
There's
thing.
like a
Pretty
you
good.
can like scan it.
It's like the new modern.
Oh no.
Jesus.
No, my
Saves.
friend has a wife. He's good.
Oh no, you have to have a wife for that shit. Like no
Yeah.
no
I
man.
hope so. Yeah.
No man.
I'm
has, like,
successfully
be helpful and do your
divorced.
best.
I'm successfully divorced.
What would unsuccessfully divorced look like?
I didn't have any kids or property, so you know. Yeah.
I was unsuccessfully divorced. I lost a house and have to split custody with 2 children. So that's
Yeah, but
that's
you're also
unsuccessful.
not talking down on anyone who is in that situation.
But you're also not an evolutionary dead end. So there's that, right?
I don't know. I'm not a. I love my son, but I'm not entirely positive he's going to procreate. So it may be an evolutionary dead end.
Maybe,
I'm
maybe
an
not.
dead end.
You know, you never know.
But that was deliberate. Like you did that on purpose. You made a conscious decision there.
My name
Well-
dies with me. You know.
When I was 18, I was like so worried, like, oh, don't knock a girl up, don't get a girl pregnant, you know, you got to be careful. And then, fuck, I gave up on that in like 2 years and just nah. Like,
rat the
don't
fuck out of
worry
that
about
thing.
that. I'm like,
Well,
fuck,
the
if I
biggest-
have a
the big-
kid, like
The big
maybe
lie
my-
is that you know raising kids is expensive, and I get that. Like, depending what kind of lifestyle you're going for, but generally speaking, like kids are pretty easy. Like you don't need a lot of the stuff that you think they need. You just buy it because you're told to. Right? Like you don't really need a lot of that stuff. You can get by without it.
my sister and brother-in-law, they got 10 kids. And I can't figure that out because I'm from a family of 9 kids. And I thought my sister would have learned, like, at what point growing up did you think, oh, I should beat mom? Like, I don't know. But the thing is, my brother-in-law, like, when their, like, oldest was, like, 8, like, I showed up to her birthday and had, like, some, like, toy piano or something like that. And he was like, oh, at least it's like a musical instrument. I don't know why people get like kids' toys. I don't know why people think that people with kids want toys for their kids. That's like don't buy toys for my fucking kids.
Or
like,
if you're
don't
gonna buy
do that.
toys, don't buy toys with like little tiny parts. Like people buy you like these things, like these puzzles and stuff with these little tiny parts, and you're like, okay, so now you understand. I'm gonna have thousands of these little tiny parts all over the house.
Yeah,
and
like
I
the
can't-
whole Lego
like,
thing.
Yeah, I can't.
Something
I
to
mean,
step
Legos
on.
is fine because you at least put Legos together, right? I'm talking like, you know, what was it like? Like the little puzzle games and some of that, or ones with blocks. I'm like, I got 3 different block games with 15 different pieces that are strewn all over the house. I'm like, I don't know which one goes with which, and they're all slightly different.
How
And
many
if
do
it
you have?
requires batteries, the second the batteries die, it is now useless. Because I mean,
Oh, wait.
these kids have got video game controllers. They kill the batteries at least twice a week. I'm like,
That's cool.
I don't have more batteries. You're not getting more batteries. How to.
Do you want to be exposed to the demon toy?
What does this thing do? What does this thing do? That is an odd dildo.
Gotta be brave for
1,
that
2,
one.
3. La la la. Bada bwa. It's a demon toy.
I don't
It's-
like
It. I am a
I
demon.
do not approve.
I'm pretty sure my aunt had a dancing flower that did the same thing when I was a kid, and we loved that thing. But yeah, I'm sure she.
My
hated
daughter loves this thing so much that
We're not supposed to. Ted Kaczynski was right. We're not supposed to get that level of technology where your kid can say something and a cactus just dances and repeats it.
My co-host Mark should be worried about this though, because
Is that going to be his replacement?
I'm going to call him Taco. It's just See, it basically just do my talking for me.
Speaking of taco, it is it is late July, which means we're only like a month and a half away from the morning after Fantasy Football League. So I hope everybody is prepared for that. We're going to do a live draft. I gotta double check with our league taco and see if he's going to be still in. If you aren't familiar with the league, you should go watch all 7 seasons and get caught up before the fantasy football season starts, because that is going to be the show for the entirety of football season. We're just going to do 3 days a week of fantasy football and nothing else. So buckle in and get ready. No, that's it.
And if you have suggestions on winning prizes or punishments for losers, send them in.
Yes. We need. What's the winner going to get, and what's the loser going to do as a punishment? Is your wife going to participate?
Talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't know. You ever play fantasy football, babe? No.
That's okay. My wife said she was in, so we met the female quota. We got 1.
You've got a Jenny.
Yeah, we've got our Jenny, and that's all we need.
Oh, we got room for Goon?
We might, as a matter of fact.
Was it 8 people?
Yeah, we need 8. So we've got me, you, Clyde, Mark, my wife, possibly Alan Mosley. So I think we said we were going to make Corey do it, but if we can find somebody who would voluntarily do it, so we don't have to force Corey into it, then
into the fantasy league.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do that shit.
All right. Sam can be. What was the name of the out of towner that died of died of AIDS? That can be Sam.
Great. Cool.
What?
You
Carlos.
I told you, if you haven't watched the league, you've got to watch all 7 seasons, like before.
Oh yeah, no, I can do that tonight.
Okay.
Carlos, I like the new bearded look, man.
Oh shit!
He's always
I've
got
had
that Mexican stubble.
I've had COVID for like the past week, so I need a haircut, vato. So that's why I haven't gone.
That's why I look like shit too. That's my excuse.
It's the COVID look.
Yeah.
Does that cause balding too? Or
you have to go to the barber to shave?
Wait, have we all had COVID over the last month, except for Jason, because he's in Australia, where they managed to actually do away with COVID entirely? Like they eradicated COVID by lockdown and vaccine mandates.
Here's the
take
thing:
away the guns, no more COVID.
There's been COVID at work and stuff like that, and I've never got it. And this is why I think it's all mimetic. It's all in your head. Because I'm a kind of guy who gets, especially back when I was working in restaurants, I would get every single seasonal flu known to man. Like I have an immune system like built like Swiss cheese, and I never got this stuff. Like I've tested for it and stuff. I've never gotten it. So I'm pretty sure it's all in y'all's head. Like you're just. Because if I haven't,
I don't know, Vato.
I'm calling.
That shit's real.
Stinky BS. Oh no, it's. I think it's as real as you think it is. Yeah. It's like it's real. Like it's as real as dinosaurs.
Hey, hey, Jason, who are those motherfuckers that gave you those toys with little fucking chingaderas? They're just trying to fuck with you, man.
Everyone does it. It's all good intentions, right? Because they're all educational toys and stuff like that. So you understand why they're doing it. But I've even told people like, don't give us any more small pieces. Like, what are you doing? She's too. She doesn't.
When you were saying that, man, I was thinking about. I recently gave a gift to a kid, right? But the guy that it was the dad of the kid. He owns a lumber yard, and I'm in construction. So very strategically, I got this kid like a $75 fucking truck, like a nice yeah. And then he sends me a picture the next day. Thank you, my kid's been playing with this this a fucking chingon. $75, but if I'm in construction and I know the lumber yard guy, that $75 gift is probably gonna pay out over 20 years, $75K savings, easy.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm saying is whoever's giving you those fucking gifts. They're fucking you, gacho, dude.
My grandfather bought me a bunch of old Tonka trucks, and this is like in the late 70s. So they're all metal with and the plastic used is really heavy duty plastic. I'll bring in one on streams one day. I still have them, and my daughter plays with them. I got a dump truck and a bulldozer and all the rest of it. And so these things are now what, 40 years old, over 40 years old, and we've kept them in good shape. I mean, I haven't really abused them, but like they're amazing, right? And again, it's one of those things where they don't make that stuff, or I think they do make that stuff, but you have to pay like a stupid amount of money for it. I don't know what they were, how much they were back in 1979. But like,
or what about if those type of toys have to do more with the see? Like I'm still trying to get on this line of thought about how religion was made to do like farming shit. Like these toys have a lineage of like, hey, if it has to do with farming, it's closer to like reality and like real life shit, you know? So like these other toys, even though they're educational to the new world, not educational to like the old world of where like you have to make your own fucking food or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm still liking that line of thought and shit like that, you know?
Well, you know what? So our daughter goes to a nature's playground. It's based around like just nature play and getting outdoors, and a lot of that stuff is like, yeah, we have like there's toys there, like the actual like toys, whatever. But most of the stuff out there is just like let the kids play with sticks, let the kids play with like let the kids get tactile, right? Trying to avoid plastics at all time because plastics are too smooth and you don't feel anything, right? So even just playing with like with a stick gives the child a bit more of a tactile sense of the real world, like it. And something that sticks with you. I think if you're brought up in this whole like everything smooth and shiny and kind of, hyper clean and all that kind of stuff, where kids aren't allowed to get dirty, kids aren't allowed to fall down and get back up, like becoming more, it's like that anti-fragile idea, where you kind of have to kind of build more of that into society, or else you have people who are completely dependent on the government, which might be good for the governments in some ways, but also makes them so weak that they can't function. Like I always laugh at the idea of a civil war, or when Tim Pool brings it up, or that America's going to go to World War III. I'm like, with who? Like with who? Half your army would shit themselves.
Yeah, but the government doesn't tell you as a parent what toys to fucking give your kid, or to allow,
Do they? Don't they?
They do.
I mean,
there's regulations.
Toys.
Yeah. There's regulations. Like there's certain things that are promoted, like especially in education, right? The problem with education, generally speaking, is that it's all an experiment, and the one of the issues is that it takes like 10, 20 years for the experiment to kind of run its cycle, and people can stand back and go, okay, what worked and what didn't. Right.
Yeah,
so
but some of these regulations, you can tell whether they're good or not, right? I mean, you're like there's some safety stuff that has to do with the lawyer class trying to protect each other. Like there's these lawyer battles from some regulations. You're like, oh yeah, I understand why they put that there. As a parent, you don't have to. You can kind of see the landscape of toys and whatever the fuck, and realize that the only toys that your kids are playing with are the ones you're allowing.
Yeah, but I think there's a big difference between like outlawing lead paint and toys, good thing, versus promoting only plastic toys because of hermetically sealed. Like people get seriously. There's discussions about that, right? Like people choosing plastic over wood because wood can get moldy or can be transferring microbes and that kind of stuff, where plastic doesn't. And you're like, yeah, but
remember all those wood illnesses we used to get?
Yeah, all those wood mites. Yeah.
Well, speaking of wood,
Hang on, I'll be right back.
This guy had some wood. Young couple caught having sex multiple times in Toowoomba courthouse.
Well, that sounds like Australia. Where's Toowoomba?
I think it's actually. Where was that? Let's see. Their lawyer said it was the exuberance of youth is the reason that they were having sex in the courthouse.
Wait, were they in court for having sex in public, and then while they were in court, they skipped out in between to go to the bathroom to have sex in court, and then they had to go back to court for having sex in court?
That would be epic, and it would be a good way to get some sort of psychological defense. Oh, we have sex addiction, we just can't help ourselves.
The girl.
All right, okay, so go ahead, Justin. My bad.
Here in court for an unrelated matter, when she and her she and her partner were sitting in the courtroom, and she decided to pull his penis out and start playing with it, and then hike her skirt up and have a seat on it, and then proceed. And then they got caught, and like a security guard or something like made them break it up, and so like they kind of played it off like nothing was actually happening. And then they did it again. And then they did it a third time. and then after they did it the third time, then they ended up like actually like having to go before the judge to explain themselves. And their lawyer, what was it? What was the exact wording that the lawyer used? He said it was that they weren't thinking and that they were overcome with the exuberance of youth.
Wouldn't that be the best way that a monkey wrench was thrown into the legal system? Remember, like flash mobs, if it just became every fucking day at every courthouse, people just come in, and then they wait, and then they just start fucking in the courtroom, and then it's like, you can't proceed with the, and then as soon as you're contempt of court, and they take those people to jail, and then it's like, all right, order in this court, please. I need some decorum. And then 15 minutes later, it's like, oh, there are more people fucking in my courtroom again. Please stop fucking in my courtroom. Like,
yeah, Sam.
If you can't get through two cases in an hour and a half, think about that. Don't go, well, what's your sign on the steps gonna do? Like, go inside and fuck.
I'll have to discuss this with my wife, but I feel like this is a good way to disrupt the system. I think I'm down for this.
Yes, Sam. I was. Hey, Sam. What's up, man? I never met you before, man. But
I'm Sam.
Yeah, man. I was. I was thinking the same thing because when Justin was reading that, I was really paying attention, and then you could tell that there was no law against it. So on the third time, they had to, the judge had to get involved because that was his courtroom, right? That was his realm, right? He's the one that wears that funny fucking costume, right? Whatever the fuck they call it, and all that shit. And he's
stand up. And...
Yeah. He's the one that has all the magic, the magic show going on. So like, yeah, exactly. If you just start smashing in the courtroom, like what the fuck's gonna happen? Are they gonna have to create statutory law and civil law and all kinds of law? Or just fucking boning law, for that type of those type of actions.
Also, what if it's not just like one couple? What if it's like 8 different couples at the same time? I mean,
see, I think
orgy law
would go to like indecent exposure or something like that, but they were kind of working around that, and then like she would real discreetly like pull it out, and then she would just sit on it, and so like it wasn't, and nobody was like catching
discreetly. I love it discreetly, like.
I'm in Washington. I'm in Washington State, and we have ferries because we have all these different waterways. So part of public transport is like ferries. So you get on, walk onto the ferry.
I was like, hang on,
you go
They got them out there
across the water, and it's like a half hour. So you walk on, you get on the ferry, and like I remember I was like 21. I was like, oh, there are people just fucking on the ferry, like coming back from a Mariners game. And I was like, you walk out the door, and they're just on the deck just fucking. And it's like, I don't think that's normal.
This is why y'all need Jesus. This is why y'all need Jesus.
Washington is fucked, dude.
So now then, well, the new line of thought now against back. I'm still on this hurting and religion thought. What about if religion wasn't about hurting? It was about keeping all those shepherd about those from fucking all the sheep. Like what I'm trying to say, like that right there might be where it's at. And right now I gotta throw it to Justin. What do you think, Justin?
So there is an argument.
Why is Justin our sheep fucking expert? Oh wait.
Like I just fight with the goat. I don't fight anything outside.
To be fair, Carlos, Justin has goats. They're
okay. Yeah, livestock.
I might be Scottish.
They're like
sheep around here.
They're like the Ukrainian prostitutes of animals.
So there is the argument to be made that some some of the purpose of early
betas
religion
fuck
was
sheep.
to
Alphas fuck goats.
stop people from behaving degenerately. So it's not entirely unheard of or unthought of that. Yeah, there might have been some of the aspects of early religion that were specifically designed to get people to stop fucking sheep or something along those lines.
So while we're on the subject of
it's
sheep
actually.
fucking,
I mean, when you look into the story of like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And a lot of people just think it's like homosexuality, whatever that. But the real sin is when you start, and Orthodoxy makes this very plain. Is like the real sin is having sex for pleasure and pleasure's sake alone, right? They make room for marital love. There's a concept of that. But basically, the sin is, and this is where it gets into homosexuality and everything else. The sin's they're not really against homosexuality per se. It's more like sex for pleasure, right? And pleasure alone, sex without procreation.
Me and Dag are both vasectomized, so we're going to hell for sure.
Well, but you procreated. So again, there's marital love. There's room for marital love.
Technically not spilling seed.
He did. Dag did not procreate, so he is all for the pleasure.
I got 31 years of confessions, and when a lot of it's going to be jacking off. If I ever become a Catholic, it's going to be a lot of times I jacked off. Do they need specific times and dates and like locations?
They also need to know what you were looking at on Pornhub at the time, just for.
I can pull that up.
Purposes.
You can just throw it into a general fornicator. Yeah, just throw in the general fornicator realm and just go. I do a lot of that. But yeah, no. So I mean, so you look at basic sins, like you go the seven deadlies, right? It's where once you. And one of the concepts is this: it's like it may not be what you're doing, like the individual sin itself, like getting angry or taking, doing, let's say, small stuff, isn't necessarily the big problem, right? The problem is when you start allowing yourself to do that, then everything else becomes permissible because you're like, it's like having cheat days on your diet. You're like, well, I become the arbiter of what I can and can't do. And when you start doing that, it's like, yeah, but who are you? You're a broken, fallen individual. Like you're basically you don't have your shit together anytime, and you shouldn't be making your own rules on this one, man, because you don't know, you only know what you know, right? And again, when you become a parent, it's a kind of a weird trip in your head where you start to realize like there's going to come a time when I have to explain things to my daughter about certain things. I'm like, how do you even reverse engineer that? Like, how do I understand, get her to understand government without even my own biases? Like, that's a big conversation to be had over many, many years. And she's inheriting all this stuff. It's not like it's not like she came up with it. Like, it's not something you would design on the fly. So you have to kind of like know all of what all of your own personal history of the world and what reality is, and then know how to interact with it on your own case. Does that make any sense? Am I just babbling?
No. It makes sense, man. But I'm trying to put like different, like, okay, so yeah, no, I hear you, man. But what about so like you maybe you guys have heard this theory.
You're cutting out, bud.
You guys are way smart. That one by.
We're not way smarter. We're not way smarter. We just
from
have
like
better
you guys.
connections.
Yeah, like how society and communities were basically based on like fermentation of beer, right? Like you were able to drink and start hanging out with the homies, and then you start having some good ideas. Well, for you to be able to drink and have a good time and still be able to eat, you needed to create a religion for the people to go fucking do the farming while the people hanging out drinking can keep on fucking partying on the weekends, right? And so I wonder if there's some like these weird lineages of what does religion say about drinking? Like what does religion say about, like, don't they drink fucking wine and shit and they fucking hang out a little bit and do, so like they're not really against alcohol, right? Or like fermentation, but they're against other shit.
It's what's called a spirit. It's you're imbibing the spirit. You're imbibing a spirit of the spirit of the Lord. Like, yeah, no, like wine and alcohol.
They get hammered.
Yeah, on like, certain days.
That's why they don't walk.
That's what Sunday's for.
Yeah,
Saturday.
In the in the Orthodox.
Yeah,
tradition,
but at the end of the day, what ended up nailing Christ to the cross?
well, the
The
Romans.
hammer.
The hammer.
Somebody got hammered.
Well, speaking of eating,
3 times.
Martha Stewart's pet
cool.
peacock got eaten by coyotes in her Connecticut home. I wonder how peacock tastes. Because we've talked about
Like chicken.
turkeys and chickens, and this is just like a big chicken, and emus and ostriches today. We may as
They're
well.
all pheasants. They're all basically based on pheasants.
See, it sounds like it'd be some sort of game bird.
Peacocks are annoying as fuck. You guys ever been around them?
They're pretty
I live
noisy,
next to
yeah.
one, man. My neighbor has a cage with fucking peacocks, man. Like peacocks and shit. And they fucking yell, and they're fucking the girl screams out, girl screams rape. She screams rape because dude, I'm serious. The neighbor we went to go drink next door with them, and this peacock, the one we hear, makes this fucking noise loud, right? And then she ended up telling us that the male eats all of the chicken, or all of her like kids or whatever. Like the male eats so, and then she goes, I don't know. And she goes, I don't know what she's yelling about. And instantly I goes, she's fucking yelling rape. She's getting raped every night. Her kids are getting eaten by the fucking. And I was like, I didn't tell her that, but in my brain, that's what I fucking thought. I was like, oh, that's what she's fucking yelling. She's getting raped every fucking night. That's fucked up.
It's pretty common in the animal kingdom, actually. It's like actually very
Special
common.
poultry. Yeah.
Martha Stewart mourned the loss of 6 peacocks savagely killed by a marauding group of coyotes that has been hanging around her Connecticut compound.
And since she's a felon, she's not allowed to own guns to shoot them.
Isn't that a
Bullshit, man.
shame? Like,
Yeah.
if there's a coyote around here, I'm skull holing that fucker with I actually have a rifle by the back door because we had a bobcat problem at one time. So, I mean, it's not a problem anymore because I shot the fucker. But we actually talked about this on the show at one time. But yeah, like if Martha Stewart wasn't a felon, and
She'd
as a
probably have her
felon,
rights back.
as a felon, should she
It's been
really
long
be
enough.
not allowed to own guns? Because it's not like she was a violent offender. She didn't like murder a bunch of people. She should be able to have guns as a recovered felon. Like
I think there's like 7 years. I think in a lot of states. I don't know what it is in Connecticut, but
can
a lot of
apply,
years, if you don't
in
have a
Florida.
criminal offense in 7 years, you can expunge.
I mean, I could understand. I could understand if you have a violent criminal offense, right?
Well, I wasn't aiming at him.
She
No, but I'm talking about Mark-
she can have a gun if she can fucking court.
Can you imagine? You can't have a gun, but you can fucking court. Like these two things are not. It's fine. No, but I think Martha Stewart went to jail for like embezzlement or something like.
It was
Insider trading. Nancy
Yeah.
Pelosi
Isn't
would
even
know
really
better,
a
but
crime.
like
It's only a crime if you get caught, kind of thing. Yeah,
It's just all politicians do it, right?
she should have just called her good friend Snoop Dogg and had him come over. You know, he's got plenty of.
Yeah.
well, that
murder
was
is
He's
the charge
not
they
a-
gave him.
Yeah, he's not the convicted felon. My
Snoop Dogg, friend or fed.
Oh, that's a good point. Probably he could, because they charged him with murder, right?
Murder was the case that they gave him.
Yeah.
Decent
Well, then
assault.
also when like Obama was inaugurated, wasn't it weird that like Jay-Z was there and someone's like, "Hey, this guy stabbed a dude," right? Am I making this up? Am I conflating something? Jay-Z stabbed the shit out of someone, right?
Obama
Laura
needed
Bush
to
killed
get
a guy.
Obama needed to get African American rub because he's not African American. Well, he's literally African, but like he's not like. This is what a lot of black leaders, like a lot of black American leaders, were talking about. It was like he doesn't represent us. Like he's not from the streets. He's not even like a Jesse Jackson. Who's much more connected to that community. He was never part of that community. So that's why he always got like the, it's basically the Hillary, I got hot sauce in my bag shit. But,
But Jason,
That's the thing that
Jason.
gets ignored about Obama and his presidency is like it was all the woke white people that were supporting Obama. It wasn't necessary. Like, yes, there was a large contingent of the loud black people who were very on board with it, but I mean, it was the white people. Like, yes, we need a black president. Yay for diversity and inclusion and the next step in society and everything. But it wasn't necessarily black people.
We all fell for it. We all fell for it.
But Jason Obama knows the difference between Boys to Men and Boys in the Hood, vato.
He probably does.
Actually, I don't think he does. I would bet you some real money, sir, that he doesn't. I mean, his handlers do. I bet you he wouldn't even know the first. I don't think
that guy could read the fuck out of a teleprompter, though.
Yeah, he knows who Erica Badu is because she was at his birthday party where they were like.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the NCAA tournament was rigged just to make sure that most of his picks became right.
Nah, dude, Justin, get the fuck out of here with that shit, dude.
That nigga didn't know
Get
shit
the
about
fuck
basketball.
out of here, no way,
They
dude.
rigged the NCAA tournament to make it seem like he did.
No, vato, come on, dude.
All right, we're talking sports now. Fuck everything else. Let's get hammered and talk sports.
Like misspeakings or anything. I can't think of any like Obama gaffes. Like he was like really like fucking eloquent. There were some times where like he misspoke, but then instantly corrected himself. But
we tortured some folks. We tortured some folks. He did say that.
As a spokesperson, he was
I guess that's close.
You guys haven't had a more elegant speaker since like I think Reagan. You look at first and second, first term Reagan up until like mid second term when the Alzheimer's started kicking in. But I mean, Reagan was a really good orator. Like people forget that about him. He could do some really powerful speeches. And Obama, I remember before Obama even got the nomination or whatever was in the running. I saw him speak at a Martin Luther King event. And I was like, oh yeah, this guy is going to go far because he had that sort of presence that's undeniable. That being said, I mean, he's also a war criminal now, so But
yeah, but what was it like his? I know he didn't grow up in like black church style, but the words kind of rang out, right? The way that he would speak, his lingo style, they kind of had a. Like there was no space for you to make your own thoughts in between unless you really have to, he covered the space the way that so you were just captivated. Yeah, no, I get you, man. But like after work, in the beginning, that's the way it was because you're hoping, right? That was hope, right? That he might change up the game, but there's definitely some style shit that's involved in trying to become the president. That's for sure. Yeah. There's no way around that.
I voted for Justin Trudeau his first run because he was saying things like this is going to be the first past the post election where he's going to change the election system and do electoral reform, which is what I really voted for him for. And the first thing he did in the first 6 months in office was turn around and go, no, actually Canadians don't really want that. I'm like, actually, sir, we do. We kind of did. Oh, but we're going to get legalized pot. Great, but I mean, what does that really do for us on the ground?
Anyways. Reagan was a professional actor, like reading a script and being that good orator was something he was professionally trained in, and it was the same for Obama. Like Obama was not a professional actor in that he was a professional political actor. Like he had been raised up and trained up to do that, to deliver that message. So like when he's delivering that and it's
community organizers, right?
Right. He was a community organizer and all that stuff. Like when he's conveying these messages, he's reading from a script that has been well thought out and well put together by like dozens of people that are looking at all of the buzzwords, all of the cultural appropriation that is necessary to make this speech really hit home. Like
which leads us to
he has been perfectly groomed to deliver that message on point every time. Like that's that was his
Carol
purpose.
Quigley kind of shit.
Which leads us to my constant observation joke that originally it wasn't going to be ultra mega, it was going to be mega, but they couldn't count on Joe Biden actually being able to say that on a reliable basis. So they went with ultra. Like they tried to say mega M&M
Hey, but Justin, but that's badass. You know, like if somebody on our side wants to win, that is a winning way. You know, like whoever wins, you need to study how they won. You don't just go, oh, you should win this way. No, it doesn't happen that way. You need to study how everybody else won, because that's the way that the pace of how things go by, like a little bit. It's a little bit like kind of like you're dragging, you're bringing along the crowd, but you also know what wins. You know, so yeah, for sure.
Carlos, you're starting to sound like a post-libertarian in that power is a thing that exists, and you have to figure out what the most efficient and effective way to wield that power is, so that you can control the narrative, so that you can set the tempo, so that you can make the changes that are necessary. And see, most libertarians don't like that, because that would be coercion of some sort, or that would be dishonest, or a NAP violation or some shit. Like, power exists, so you have to figure out what's the most effective and efficient way to go about manipulating that power to get the outcome that you want. Now, as a sociopath, that's easy for me to look at and say, okay, this is like the things we should be doing. But for like a true, like a puritanical type of a libertarian, that's yeah, like that. Like that's playing dirty politics, and you don't want to be getting in and muddying up the water in that kind of a way. So,
well, let me say this. This is just from my opinion. Obviously, a lot of course think I'm not as hardcore, right? But like, but it's true. It's kind of like division of labor, right? And there, I believe that we all have certain things that we're good at, or we can stomach, or what the fuck ever. So yeah, some people, you don't want me playing politics. I'm not good at that shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a role for me. But someone, like Justin, who's a sociopath, right? Who's gonna be better at that. Or some people have different, they think about things differently. You know what I mean? So I have my role, and I do what I can sleep with at night. You know what I mean? And I have my way of bringing freedom to people. But I'm a multi-pronged approach kind of guy. I think that everybody needs to do, what they're good at, what's best. I see some people attacking from the political side as being fine, which I'm getting a lot of course, disagree with me with that, but what the fuck ever. I think that there's, it's a lot of prongs on the fork, right? So, attack it, do what you're good at. And sometimes it's, I think some things are natural progression. I mean, some people have to go put on the bow tie and knock on doors and pitch for the Libertarian Party as part of their progression. I mean, a lot of us had sort of similar things. I mean, I know when I started getting into it, and, you start reading books, and you have that phase where this is so obvious, let me tell everybody. And, you're arguing with people online, and then you realize that there's no good. So you stop doing that after a couple of years, but there's just sort of this progression that I see, and everyone's got a little different path, but I see a lot of people go through that. So I try to not beat people up too much when they're, in whatever stage that I might not think is the best way to go, because maybe they'll find their way, and B, sometimes you got to go through some disappointments to, really, really figure out what works and where you fit in.
Well, okay. So I'm sure Jason is.
I agree, Dag. I agree. That's good shit. That's good shit, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I'm sure Jason's seen this,
Carlos, by the way.
And I'm sure.
I agree, Goon.
I think he might have actually even shared it. Have y'all seen where the Democrats have been throwing money at the far right conservative candidates, like the ultra MAGA types, thinking that they're going to help those candidates win their primaries because they'll be easier to pick off come general election in November? Like that's the kind of shit that conservatives and libertarians should be actively involved in, is like figure out. And I've been, I don't want to say guilty. I have done that myself. Like, I will go vote in Democratic primaries and vote for the worst Democratic candidate, hoping that they will win because they'll be easier to pick off come November in the general election. Like, that's a smart way to go about doing your business.
Guilty.
And especially in like a lot of states, you decide which party you're going to vote for in the primary at the time of the primary. Like, you don't have to be pre-registered. You go and you say, okay, I'm voting for Democrat for the Democratic primary candidates, or I'm voting for the Republican primary candidates. You don't have to pick ahead of time. You just do it when you show up.
No, but what's the strategy, Vato?
You show up, you vote for the worst Democratic candidate on the ballot, hoping that you push that candidate to win.
No, I mean what you were saying from the beginning. What you were saying from the beginning, because you're going too more into the weeds, and like you were saying, like, why are the Democrats funding the most right? Like stay on that. Like why are they doing that?
Oh, because they think that they're easy targets come November. Now I personally think it's a misstep on their part. So what the Democrats think that they're doing is they are funding and supporting the worst candidate, the worst Republican candidate on the ballot. So in other words, they're supporting the more far right candidate. Now, I think it's a misstep in that a lot of those more moderate, like for the libertarian terms, like the praggy type of candidates, I think those are actually the ones who would lose anyway. So I think it's a misstep on the Democrats' part in that they're overplaying their hand, thinking that that a more right-wing candidate is the weaker candidate. But that's what they're doing, is they are kind of rolling the dice on that, thinking that I'm going to put money behind this guy who I think is a bad candidate to try to get him to win his primary, so that in November we've got a weaker candidate to run against for our candidate. And like I said, I think it's a misstep, but it makes sense. And that's that dirty pool stuff that I was talking about. Like politics is not a pleasant game, and you have to have a certain stomach for nastiness if you want to play that game. So like that's where that's where we're getting into this, and that's where for me, libertarianism is not built for politics, because politics is all about playing dirty and playing the game as it exists, and libertarianism is all about the non-aggression principle and being nice and principled. I mean, like there's not a lot of room for dirty pool type.
Justin, hold on, Justin, check it out. So I know what you're saying, man, but check it out, man. The tequila's flowing over here, vato. So I'm gonna freestyle here a little bit, okay? Check it out. They did the same thing nationally to build up Trump, right? They build up Trump. Do you remember when Rand Paul would say they're giving this vato $1 billion worth of advertisement for free, and he was complaining, and they're building up Trump, right? Because they wanted to get the worst candidate. Okay, so nationally they figured out that it didn't hit, but everybody always likes the underdog story, especially on the right, because they're the underdog politically in this landscape, right? So what about if the Democrats are trying to figure out and say, you know what, instead of going national, let's start funding money to these small races to see if actually people, you see, because what about if Trump lifted candidates that would have not have normally won, but they did because everybody was looking national. So they started actually putting in the worst candidate. So what I'm trying to say is that, what about if this is just a test run to find out if maybe you should throw funds towards the most right-wing candidate to really clear the lines, to make the lines clear of where everybody stands, and not have this gap between the national candidates, the worst, but hey, my guy's not too bad because he's not. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, so sometimes like they're trying to figure out they're playing a longer game. You know,
that's a misstep. It's a misstep. They're thinking that they're supporting. It's Hillary's. Sam, you might know. Hillary's camp had a specific term for it when they did it with Trump, and it backfired.
The deplorables. They called them the deplorables.
No.
And
it
stuff,
was.
Well, she tried to she had like CNN try to promote Trump. So like, like they'd spend as much time as they could, camera time on Trump, allegedly because of course it's fucking Trump. He's a fucking buffoon. Let's get him out there and make him look like a retard. And that didn't work.
No one thought he was going to win at the beginning of the primaries. No one thought Trump was going to win.
It wasn't. The term she used wasn't cherry picking. It was. It was.
But the deplorables narrative didn't. The deplorables narrative didn't infiltrate all the way to the streets. It was a national narrative that wasn't close to the streets. So once you make the candidate the one that's gonna be super right wing, almost attach himself completely to Trump like that, like so. What I'm saying is, it might be a test run of how funds are being allocated. Is what I'm saying is like
That's the thing is like it's an inverse. Like if it failed that miserably at a national level, it's going to fail even worse at more local levels. Like that's not the way politics works. Like you don't have.
I mean, we'll see.
If that worked at a local level, then you could apply it to a national level. But if it already failed at a national level, like the more localistic you get, the more dug into those ideas that the local voting bases get. So like by promoting a more conservative, more ultra MAGA type of a candidate, a more right wing candidate than say some moderate conservative.
I didn't read this article, so I want to see this article.
It's gonna flip. Like it's not going to work in their favor. That's why I keep saying it's a misstep. Like they're for some reason the general Democratic base that's making the decisions for the DNC seems to think that society as a whole is very woke and progressive, when really if you look at like a map of the US and you look at all of the red, like it's really the polar opposite of that. Like you have these we live in a red nation with pockets of blue. It's not the other way around. But the Democrats have this they have this brain bug that has infected them that they don't understand.
Yeah, but they understand data. But remember when Obama won and everybody
they understand the data in these like little small pockets of blue that they poll. They don't understand the data across this wide.
Remember when
they don't realize how big the middle of the country is. I really do believe that. So even let's say numbers. Let's say it's half and half. Let's say half people live in the city, and half people are blue, half people are red. But yeah, as far as like land mass and of course the people who can do things, I think it tends to be a little more like red, for sure. And they definitely forget that. I might have talked about this on the show before, but at one point, Dave Smith years ago was doing this panel for like the Paisley Center or something, and it was with a bunch of other like comedians, like lefty comedians. And these comedians were talking about like, man, I went and did a show somewhere, Nebraska, what the fuck ever. And he's like, I can't believe that there's still people in the country that talk like this. And I'm like, dude, that's half the country, bro. Like, that talks like that.
And it's David Cross too. He should know. From Georgia.
Yeah.
Well,
so my strategy when I was like younger and still kind of a statist, right? More of like let's say like a true believer, right? Like I you got to vote and blah blah blah. And I tended to be more like left leaning, Democrat leaning. In Florida, you can only vote in the primaries for whatever party you're registered in, and I was always no party affiliation. But I remember talking to friends, and we were like, man, I'm considering like joining the Republican Party just because I'd like to be able to vote in the primaries. And my thing was, again, not being a Republican was, well, I'd rather be able to, the opposite of the strategy they're going for, where they're trying to pick the worst one so they don't get elected. I was like, no, I want a primary, the better choice. So when it does come to the polls, like, oh, I'd rather there be the Republican I prefer, the opposing party member that I prefer in there, if they're going to be in, I'd rather be the one I like. So I kind of had a different strategy where it was like, it's almost like they're trying for like the worst outcome, or they're really playing with fire, doing that. Or, I was like, no, I'd rather, if the party I don't like gets in there, I'd rather be able to choose the candidate that they're going to be able to select from. So it was more hoping for trying to have a better outcome for everybody. So it's kind of funny that they're, it's weird to me to be like, to try to be sabotagey like that, because you could end up in totally the other direction. You're really putting a lot of eggs in one basket with that, if that's the right turn of phrase. But
that's the entire thing is so foreign to me, because in like Washington, I'm in Washington State, right? And I have never either, presidential for the governor or for any senator or representative. None of the people I've ever voted for have been elected to office ever. I mean, I'm 31 years old, but still not one time. And because they have it controlled, like what you were talking about, how the whole country, Justin was saying how most of the country's red. I saw this commercial come up the other day. It was for Derek Kilmer, who is the representative for Washington's 6th district. And it's just, you know, it was on the abortion subject or whatever, and it caught my eye because it came on TV, and it's just this guy sitting around with like a whole bunch of women and he's in the middle of the room and he's making this face. Yeah. And they're like, even in Washington state, our reproductive health, it's not guaranteed. And he's like, it is reproductive health. It is. And it is healthcare. And he's like, fake a tear. And, you know, and I'm like, I've seen this guy's name because I know he's a local candidate. And I'm like, oh, this guy's in Washington, D.C.? Like, what district is this? Let me look this up. And it's Washington 6th District. Washington 6th is the entire Olympic Peninsula, Grays Harbor County, so Aberdeen, everyone on the coast, all the rural areas, Mason County, which voted for Trump more than any other county in the state, and also Tacoma. So Tacoma has more votes to keep electing this guy. And so essentially, by that, I don't have a say in it. I've never had a say in any of this. And that's why, like, and you always hear from the people, typically they'll attack the Senate, and they're like, well, why do like all these states get so many, they get 2 senators, but they only have so, and it's like, but also, did you ever look at the fact that you're accusing us of gerrymandering, you're doing it, and it's just to get people to fight each other. Like, if you're fighting one another, then you're not realizing what's really going on. That's why I don't get too involved in the politics of it. Like, I don't get involved in that just because I'm not like black-pilled or whatever you call it. I'm not like being negative, but I'm like, I don't have faith in that shit.
Yeah, how do you want to spend your effort and your time and your brain power, and again, like I was saying earlier, some people they think that way and they enjoy it, and some of us don't. So it's like, fuck, I'm not gonna, now it's something like a local, right. Like you could talk me into getting semi-involved in local politics. You know what I mean? That's a possibility. For sure, when it directly affects you, like your county or what have you. Yeah. But yeah, anything beyond that, I just, it's just a fucking waste of time. In my opinion. Yeah,
I voted to legalize weed. That was cool.
I'm not saying it's not for everybody.
Me and you understand.
I voted to legalize weed and it worked. So.
Dag, me and you on the same page. Like Sam, like Sam. You do have a voice. You could whatever the last 2 minutes, what you were saying, you could run on that. So you have a voice. You can run on that. But if you don't, then you really can't say, oh, I don't have a voice. Yeah, you fucking do. You got to fucking run. So if you don't run, then you don't got to. So you can't. See, my thing is this is the shit like, yeah, man, like we all got a voice. The streets are still the streets. The streets are the fucking streets.
Did y'all ever see that? There's no free Huffington Post interview. Did you ever see that?
Which one?
It's Ari Shaffir, the comedian, on a Huffington Post interview. And the guy's like, what do you think about politics? And he's like, I don't give a shit. And the guy's like, well, what? Some people find it a treasure trove. And he's like, some people do. I don't. It's all corrupt. It's all bullshit. Fuck it all. And he's like, well, wait. I mean, no, but the thing about America is you have a vote. And he's like, they're all paid off. What are you voting for? It's like, it doesn't matter. And he starts saying and he looks at the guy straight in the face. He's like, I'd like to see a bunch of politicians start getting killed so that they'll listen to. And the guy's just like, you're joking, right? And he's like, no. Like, look at history. That's the only way things have changed. And he's like, oh, it's not fair. You clearly you don't understand. And he's just degrading the guy. But it's a hilarious clip. I'll share it with you guys. But I'm like, if you watch this video, you're on a list. Anyone that you're not already on.
So Carlos was talking about local, you do have a voice. I interviewed Brandon Harnish, who has officially won his county council seat as of a couple weeks ago when his competitor didn't file any of the paperwork to actually be on the ballot in November. So he's gonna win. But the reason he got involved was because the tax assessor in his county was fucking around with the way that taxes were being applied and raising tax rates on property taxes and stuff like that. And basically he and a bunch of like-minded, liberty-minded Republicans got together and said, all right, this shit ain't gonna work. We're going to run your ass out. And to run a tax assessor out of office in like in any state, but especially in like the state of Indiana or Kentucky or like where it's an incredibly cliquey, like once you're in, that's basically your job for life until you decide to retire or resign, at which point you effectively choose your successor, and then that person goes on to do it for the rest of their life. Like for him,
Down pillow and a batatar, dude. That's all it takes.
well, for him to put together a coalition of people and run this person out of office and then get himself into a position in his county where he can actually like have a say and make change happen. Like that's the way that politics is supposed to be done, but it has to be done at an incredibly local level. Like you don't make that kind of change on a state level until you have first made that kind of change on a local level and been able to kind of expand your reach with that, where people can see, oh shit, like if these people can do that there, they can do that to us. So we better get our shit together.
The thing that I would bring up is there's a few things there. One, by the way, I'm drinking goat beer. It's the tagline. It's very enjoyable beer. It's Australian
Does it have
standard.
goat in it, or is that just the name?
Probably.
No question to go with this.
So there's a few things going on all at once that we have to recognize, because I think once we start to get into the metagame, sort of more of a widespread analysis of what's going on, we realize how immediately fucked we are, but also, we're playing the wrong game. So all of politics in Western, let's say in Western perspective, is part of a liberal framework, and we can say that in a global framework, because communism, nationalism, all that stuff comes from liberalism, comes from classic liberalism. That's an Enlightenment kind of theory. So when you're trying to play that game, if you're trying to uncorrupt the corrupted system, it's impossible. One of the big discussions that's been happening, and this woman called Caroline had on Jay Dyer and James Lindsay to discuss. I posted this out, I think, on Twitter somewhere, and you should go check it out. I think Tommy Salmons and myself and her are going to have a conversation about this next Friday night, discussing how the root of wokeism and progressivism, not just the current iteration, but we're going back. This goes back even thousands of years, is Gnosticism. So what it really is, at the basis for all this worldview,
it's what?
Gnosticism. So Gnosticism is this sort of splinter religion that kind of formed. It's a hard one to get your head around. Like I still.
Okay, well that's cool. I didn't know. I just heard. Okay, cool, man. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, but it's a hard question. So we're going to have that conversation. I'll put it on Twitter. You guys should check it out because it's a bigger concept. So Gnosticism is, think about it as sort of this parallel religion that believes that one of the tenet beliefs is that man came from this sort of proto divine being that was both male and female, was all being, and got splintered up, and all these splinters are kind of existing in humans. And the idea is basically to replace God, right? Like that's the basis between transhumanism and all this kind of stuff is actually goes back to a Gnostic faith, where the elites in this sense, people who believe that their rightful dominion is to become God, right? And that's the worrying thing. So when you're starting to deal with all this stuff, we're so downstream from all this that you think that a local election, and I'm not trying to blackpill anyone. I'm not trying to tell anyone not to do what they want to do with their life. Do it, like spend your energy the way you want to. But when we're thinking about how what's really going on, what the big giant battle here is, it is spiritual. It is a religious war in some cases. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. Occasionally the Christianity or some other group will get prominence, and then it switches back to this sort of Gnostic faith, and that's what's going on. Like, and you start to see elites. It's like why all those Hollywood stars get into Scientology? Like Scientology would be in a sense a sort of a Gnostic kind of splinter faith, right? Sorry.
No, my bad, man. My bad.
No. So when you get to that level of analysis, it's like we're not just dealing with elections and systems and corruption and fraud and money. We're talking about like ancient faiths and spiritual and demon possession and like and real deal apocalyptic sort of biblical shit. Um, so not to bum anyone out, because I think that's like sort of I've been calling these sort of things like bitter white pills, because there's things you don't. It's like a white pill that tastes like fisherman's friend, or cod liver oil. You're tasting, you're like,
But
no,
you know
I
what,
know this.
Jason? But you know what, Jason? I disagree a lot with a lot of the biblical, like apocalyptical shit. Like I don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff, man. I just keep going, and it's not even it's I don't even know, man. Like it's not even it doesn't even really calculate into my daily life at all. I really just hear it when I'm like online a little bit of this world that we're in. I respect what you're saying. I respect what you're saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that like a lot of people probably don't even calculate that into their normal
No,
existence.
I
People,
know.
so like.
So sorry,
I
Carlos.
mean,
Just
that's
to jump in for a
fine. You
second.
can you
That's
can
why I
not
think.
have that. You can not acknowledge that and not have that be a thing that affects your life
What's the
until
most
the point
important
that
part
it
about that conversation?
does.
I think the most important part of that conversation is, I think, I said this to Matt on the King Pill Discord recently. It's like, I think one thing that we, right, like what this group, whatever it can be, is taking a lot of these ideas, because it's like filtering down through the hierarchy, right? I realize that my part of the hierarchy in all this is pretty low level, because I'm not even a step above. I'm just intellectually, let's say, I have a bit more of a vocabulary than the guy I work with who raises sheep, right? And again, he's not dumb, he's not stupid. This is not an intelligence thing. It just means like I'm spending some of my energy trying to figure out what the hell Jay Dyer is talking about, which is esoteric. And what James, if you listen to that podcast, they're talking at such a high level that my like, and again, it revealed to me how much of a surface level of certain ideas, certain concepts I was running with, where they were referencing some people, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know Hegel, like dialectics, and I get that, but I don't know a lot about it, right? It kind of exposes your priors and how dumb I am. But I'm just smart enough, or I can speak the language just enough to start translating it. And I think that's kind of what we can do, is try to create a common vernacular to get at people who have other shit going on, who don't think about these things in terms of spiritual warfare. And in fact, if you put it in that context, most people are like, hey, whoa, right? Like demon possession, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it gets spooky, right? So I think it's incumbent upon us to somehow distill that into something that people can understand and start using. And I'm not saying change the world, but at least like prepare yourself for what's coming next. Because when you start getting into that spiritual discussions, there's a lot of people who have been making the right calls, and they're so right, like on the money, calling it, and they're using it from a spiritual framework, that it starts getting really spooky. Like you can start seeing things happening before they start happening.
But when you say that, when you say on the money, are they making money?
Oh, some of them are. Yeah, 100%. And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be wary about that, right? But you have to worry about false idols and false prophets. But again, it's like sometimes there's conversations being had that I don't think are about money. And I'm not about it, right? Like I do these 3 to 5 hour podcasts talking about stuff just to talk about stuff. Like, it's not. To leave something behind for my daughter, hopefully, to have the conversation out there, and maybe something out of those conversations sparks something else that trickles up, and then someone like Tucker Carlson uses it on a show, not referencing it to me because I don't care about that, but it's like those, again, with hierarchical, when you look at hierarchies, I think there's hierarchy to ideas, and especially in social media, how these things get broadcast. I don't want to be Joe Rogan, and I don't want to have any of that level of reach and fame, but sometimes ideas do percolate up to him, right? And then he starts talking about that, and he can find a way to reach people with those ideas. We just
Well,
need to be.
Well, you know
able
what?
to get that
Well, you know what, Jason? Like, I wouldn't mind being the Mexican Joe Rogan, vato. So I'm not even, I'm throwing chingazos to be the best that I can be, or be the best or whatever. And if it doesn't end up, it doesn't matter, because in reality world, I was still doing the shit that I had to do anyway to make money. Like on the, but yeah, or life, whatever the fuck, whatever,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to head out in just a few minutes here.
I'd say we've been going for 2.5 hours. It's
been good though. I was gonna say though, real quick though, I like what you were saying there, Jason, and I personally view everything like in my life as it's a constant battle, good and evil. Some people don't like using those terms, but that's the way I see it. Whether or not you want to say the word spirituality or whatever, but like you were saying, some people don't use the same vernacular, and some people, if you say spirituality at all or anything like that, they'll get turned off. But there's something there, and some people don't believe in that. Whatever, good for them. But I see it that way. But I don't know. If we're wrapping up real quick,
that's cool, Sam. It's like energy. It's energy. It's energy. Whatever. People interpret it differently, man. Like I always like to say that my wife prays so good that I don't have to pray. I'm not religious because my wife prays. She prays badass, man. Like she tells me I pray for this, I pray for that, and then it happens. I was like, oh shit, I thought it was life. She goes, no, I prayed for that shit. I was like, oh fuck, well then I don't gotta fucking pray.
Dude, what a lucky guy. My wife is so good she left me. Hey, but you guys have a good night for sure. Thanks for letting me on, Gus. Nice to meet you guys.
Ciao, Sam. Nice to talk to you.
You know what? This might have actually been the least retarded that we've ever been on an episode, which is probably my fault for inviting a bunch of randos in. But thanks, guys, for joining us. This got way deeper and way more serious than what we. This was honestly more serious than what we even do for a regular morning show. So we are going to wrap on the usual outro, and we will see everybody on Monday, bright and early, 7:30 Central. That'll be 7:30 in the PM for Jason, so he'll definitely have a beer, but the rest of us will be drinking coffee. And hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend. And we will see you then.
For breakfast is
This is coffee.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.